would love to have you turn your cell phones off, if you would, please.
Hi.
Good evening. Welcome. Congrats. It's been fun. I like the town. I know it's your hometown. It's a nice little town. You know? I think it's still a nice town. It's like a politician.
Those are my buddies. I'm going with beers with them after. I want to make sure, hey, don't leave.
That's
We need to go drinking.
Joanne, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I got my glasses on now so I can see. Yeah, I do. I'm happy to. We'll be happier if Rob moves this thing along.
I do my best. Are we about ready, folks?
You just listen. When I say take a vote, take a vote.
Go for it. Point of order, gone. Okay, folks, come on down. It's just about the hour. We'd like to start the meeting. Annual town meeting here, town of Tingsboro. What's the date today? 17?
17. Yep. Allow the following to vote.
Yeah. Do you want to read it? Do you want to read it? You want to make the motion? We can't make the motion. Those are the ones we have to.
Catherine's not here.
So take the name off.
Yeah, I would. And the people from the Greater Law.
I do have them on. Hey, evening, girl. You have very little on there.
I'm ready for the pledge of allegiance.
Okay.
You ready? Okay, folks, good evening and welcome. Town of Tingsboro Annual Town Meeting. Now that you're all nice and comfortable and face forward, I'd like to have you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's more of an echo. I'd like to make a motion to allow the following non-residents to speak, to address this meeting. Those names are Attorney Charles Zaroulis, Town Administrator Kurt Bellavance, Superintendent of Schools Don Ciampa, Town Accountant Catherine Gabriel, Conservation Director Matt Morrow, Assistant Town Administrator Matt Hanson, and Roger Bourgeois, Greater Lowell Tech Superintendent. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of these non-residents having the chance to speak at this meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can you add Sue Arthur? Library Director?
Well, I've got to do it
Okay,
as a separate.
another.
Shall we wait till maybe whether she speaks or not?
Okay.
Do it? Just do it now while we're at it? Okay, I have one more name to add. I'd like to also add our Library Director, Sue Arthur. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I do have the second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of that motion to allow that non-resident to speak possibly this evening, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Yes, sir.
The Town of Tingsboro, Article 2, Finance Committee. We were supposed to get a report from the Finance Committee 7 days before the town meeting, which we received today. If you want to read the article, you're welcome to read it.
The report was not available at the election
It was
day?
not available. It wasn't available online. It was available today, about 5 hours before this meeting. And that's a violation of the bylaw of the Town of Tingsboro.
Speak on it, Charles.
May be a violation, but it has no consequence with these towns.
It does have a consequence because no one got to look at the numbers.
There has been a case in the past that held, even though the Finance Committee was supposed to submit a report by a certain date, if it fails to do so, the town meeting may still proceed.
So Gus, we were late getting the report to the town administrator. That was my fault. And I think there was some subsequent delay in getting the numbers filled in with all of the jockeying back and forth with the numbers. So you are correct. We didn't have it the 7 days before.
So how do we comprehend the numbers? We're not going to be able to analyze the numbers before they're brought up. Are you going to bring each article, each line item up for discussion?
Again, you've got to ask yourself, we can bring this to a vote, but everyone is here do we now want to vacate the room because of this? That's the question you've got to ask yourself.
Well,
Again, they've
you've got
apologized.
bylaws we go by. We have to go by the bylaws, so should
Sure. Article number 2, to see if the town will vote to accept the reports of the town officers and committees as printed or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on Article 2?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept the reports of the town officers and the committees.
I have a motion and a second for Article 2. Any discussion? Hearing,
Mr. Moderator, my name is Kathleen Spaeth, and I live at 2 Minuteman Drive. I need to also not only ask why the finance report wasn't provided in the 7 days, and Gus has already done that already, but the fact is our 2015 annual report was not posted to the town website until yesterday, May 16th. Hard copies of the 2015 annual report, which is 105 pages, was not made available until this evening. How can we, as a town, stand up here and vote on a report that we haven't had a chance to read, and then in turn bring our questions forth to this body?
If they don't want to approve it, let the vote not to approve the acceptance of it. If they want to accept it, let them accept it.
you mean Article number 2?
Yeah.
So you are, at this point, you would vote not to approve Article 2.
I would actually make an amendment on the floor right now to remove Article 2 from this warrant article, since we were not provided the information in a timely fashion to be able to read it and then come forth and ask questions.
Well, of course, a negative vote on Article 2 would remove it.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion, Article 2? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 2 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. That does pass. Article 3, to choose all officers not named in Article 1 of the annual town election warrant, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion. I move that the town vote to appoint Nancy A. Johnson and Christopher Derry to the Memorial Day Committee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 3. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 3 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to fix the salary and compensation of elective officers of the town as provided by Section 108 of Chapter 41 of the Mass General Laws as amended for the fiscal year 2017, which is July 1, 2016 to June 30, 2017, or take any other action relative thereto. Salaries of the elected officials are included in the Department Appropriations to be submitted within Article 5, and then below you will see all the salaries, the requested salaries, and the total recommended. We have a motion on Article 4.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to, I'm sorry.
That's quite right.
I move that the town fix the salary and compensation of elected officers as shown in the total recommended column of the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
I have a motion on Article 4. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on Article 4? Please.
Mr. Moderator, motion to amend Article 4. I would make a motion to amend Article 4 to change these numbers to the numbers that were last, for the people that have requested them, to move them back to the last time that we did have stipends. So my motion would be for the moderator for $200, for the selectman chairman would be $1,200, for the members
Just a
for
little
each.
slower, because I'm going
I'm
to fill
sorry.
them right in. Go ahead.
So members for each would be $1,200 for a total.
Members with 1,200 as well as the chair.
Yep, for $4,800 total.
Thank you.
The Board of Health Chair, $640. The members for each at $520 each, for a total of $2,600. And then the Planning Board, the chairman at $1,200, and the members at $1,000.
Members total,
Total, I'm sorry, $4,000.
$4,000. Do I have a second? I do not, okay. Okay, I do have a second on that. We have, the article is written on the floor. We have a motion on the floor to reduce these figures. Let's talk, folks. Is there any conversation? Discussion, please.
Mr. Moderator, the reason for my amendment is the fact that it was only last night that these numbers were determined by the Board of Selectmen. The FinCom is not currently in favor of stipends. I do actually support stipends. I was one of the board members who back in 2005 removed stipends due to budget constraints. I am aware of the amount of hours that people put in, so I do understand the reasoning behind stipends. I just don't see a plan behind the way that they were put forward. So based on that, I think we restore ourselves to 2004, and then for next year that we come forward with a plan on a process on looking at everybody in stipends. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Finance Committee, want to speak for a moment?
The Finance Committee had taken a vote at its last meeting to not recommend this,
In either direction, amended or original?
to be 0.
Yep, very good. Gus?
Augustus Scammers, Precinct 3, 257 Dunstable Road. I notice in the salaries, you have a salary for a tax collector, but there's none requested for a salary for a tax collector. And I thought we voted for a tax collector at this last election.
Selectman want to speak on this?
The ballot question, good evening, Kurt Bellavance, Town Administrator. The ballot vote that the town had decided on was to appoint the tax collector, and the salary of the tax collector is listed in that departmental salaries and wages line item. It's not listed in as an elected stipend.
But in the ballot, it did say, the question was to appoint the elected tax collector.
You want to address that?
That's what it said. That's what it was interpreted.
I don't have the ballot here, but I don't think so. I think the ballot read to see if the town would vote that the tax collector be appointed.
That
And that-
the elected tax collector be appointed.
The elected
The
position,
elected tax collector be appointed.
the
No.
elected,
No,
no,
excuse me.
she has the
Ballot
words.
question read, shall the town vote to have its elected tax collector become an appointed tax
Okay,
collector?
but we had to elect him first.
Because the term, Jean's term expired, so it was by necessity on the ballot. If the question had not passed, it would be an elected position for the next 3 years. But
I'm
because
totally confused.
you're
I think a
confused,
lot of other people are confused.
I'm sure they are.
We have a motion on the, we have two figures on the floor, folks. You've fallen asleep on me now. We have original figures for Article 4 as recommended by the selectmen. And then we have a lower figure with a motion and a second. Of course, when we're ready to vote, I will be taking the lower figures first. You understand how town meeting works. We take the lower figure first. Is there any questions before we go to a vote on this?
Mr. Moderator,
Please.
I didn't hear the, Ms. Pulio's, all of the numbers, so if you could,
I can kind of go down them if you want.
so for the selectmen, you had 1,200.
I'm
1,200
sorry,
and
I missed-
4,800.
That's only 4 people, so.
So, Mr. Moderator, I apologize, and I did not introduce myself. Karen Pulio,
Yeah,
Beverly Road.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Kramer, for anybody, I did not only change the ones that were there. So the tax collector, I did not amend. The town clerk, I did not amend. So do you want me to go through? So I did the moderator at $200, selectmen at $1,200 each, both chair and the members.
Okay,
So members' figure is
That's-
4,800.
so that's 6,000.
Correct.
Correct. Board of Health chair, $640. Members at $520 for a total of $2,600. Planning Board at $1,200 for the chair. Members for each at $1,000 each for a total of $4,000. And again, those are from the June 15th, 2004 election. And I do want to separately note that one of the reasons I am also making this motion is because when we restored sewer commission stipends last year, they were restored at the $1,500 and the $1,000 that are there. They previously were at $2,000 and $1,500. Theirs went down. So again, it doesn't make sense to me that everybody else's are going up and the sewer commission went down. I think we need to look at this as a plan and come forward again. So that's why I'm moving to restore them.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 4? Please.
Kathleen Spaeth, 2 Minuteman Drive. The sewer commission, the $1,500 for the chairman, and then the $1,000 totaling $2,000. Where does that money come from to pay for it?
Selectman?
It comes from the sewer enterprise fund.
So I was here at town meeting last year, and the selectmen sponsored an article to bring forth their stipends. And they brought amounts in, and there was discussion about the sewer commission, and that money comes directly from the ratepayers and from the money from the sewer commission enterprise funds. And at last town meeting, last June, we turned down these stipends. I don't understand actually why we're calling them salaries when I'm hearing them also referred to as stipends. So could you kindly explain to me what the difference between a stipend and a salary is, please?
I'm going to start with the amount.
I'm sorry?
A stipend is a whole lot less than a salary.
Okay.
But I'm just
Mr.
being general.
Moderator,
Selectman, go right
Just
ahead.
for a correction, there was no stipends submitted last year. There was not.
Actually, that's correct. The selectmen withdrew the article
Right.
at town meeting.
Not at town meeting. No, we never even presented it to town meeting, did we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
You got it. Here.
It was a special? Oh, at this, no, but we couldn't do that. We couldn't submit it because we had already set the tax rate, so we didn't bring it to town meeting. It was discussed in a Board of Selectmen meeting, but it wasn't brought to town meeting.
Anyway, so what's changed between this past fall's special town meeting, where you withdrew the article, and now you come forward after only discussing it at one Board of Selectmen's meeting, and now you bring it forth to the voters to vote?
So I guess we'll start off with the stipends were supposed to be given up for 1 year, 10 years ago, because the town was having financial difficulty, and I think the board members wanted to show leadership and take the stipends away so the town could be managed fiscally responsible. You've seen residents get up and propose stipends many years, almost all years, and we've always said, no, we're not ready, no, we're not ready. As we've gone on, I'm not going to sit up here and argue for a stipend for myself or for fellow board members, but I will say this: the requirements of our board members, the Board of Selectmen, what we have to do between hiring positions, firing positions, holding disciplinary hearings, negotiating union contracts. We're spending a minimal of 20 hours a week, sometimes 30, sometimes 40. I know as chairman in the past several months, I've had probably 3 weeks where I've spent at least 40 hours. We're in subcommittee meetings. I coached basketball at the high school for 15 seasons. I got paid every season. I think it's time to show a gratitude to the people that are serving the town, that are taking time away from their families, taking time away from their work and their businesses to run the town business. It costs people money to be on a board. We use our own cell phones. We use our own computers. We pay for our own gas to go to meetings. I think it's just a nice gesture to show that what all board members in town do is appreciated. So, but that being said, I don't need the money. I don't do it for the money. It would just be nice to have an acknowledgement and show that there's gratitude for the job that's being done. That's all.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I want to ask if this is the case, and I understand, I think, some of the logic behind why you're asking for the stipends. I also understand Mrs. Pulio's amendment change and why she wanted to lower it, because I really think it needs to be studied a little further. But I need to understand, is the stipend going to automatically be paid, or are you, or say, for instance, for the selectmen, $1,200 for the chairman, will you put in for reimbursement, or will you automatically be paid that stipend, and no matter how many hours you put in, say you're a member that only puts 20 hours in, or say you're a member who puts 50 hours in, you'd get that same amount?
That is correct.
No matter what,
That is
right?
correct.
Okay. And then I need to understand from the Finance Committee a little more reasoning, a little more understanding as to why this was not recommended. You talk about in your financial report that things are looking a little better financially for the town, and you talk about, but you also talk about being fiscally responsible and planning ahead. So why do you feel, as the Finance Committee, that you don't feel comfortable recommending this article?
Well, I think anytime you do budgeting, it's a matter of priorities, right? And if you put money into stipends or anything, then you take it away from something else. I think elected officials, I know, speaking for myself, I donate my time, cell phone, Rick's right, we make copies of agendas and reports on our home printers. Chris spends a fortune in color printers. I don't know what he spends a year in his Excel spreadsheets in color, but that's all part of the deal. When you sign up for it, you understood that this is not a paying job. You're doing it, if you're sadistic, you do it for the enjoyment. If you put some time into the community. So our feeling, at least my feeling, is that there's no need for a stipend. It's not a, I think the higher you get on a stipend, people look at it that, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 a year, that's not a bad deal. That's a vacation a year. I may run for office because, you know, I do agree with Rick. It's a good gesture. Selectmen put in a whole lot more time than the Finance Committee. I was on the planning board for 6 years. You can put in as much time as you want to be engaged. You can come to the meetings and do nothing, or you can spend 20, 30, 40 hours a week actively engaged in something. So, but I think the priorities are such that I think a good example was the Selectmen's meeting last night. They voted to reduce their request for stipends, and immediately Bill Grammer found a need for $10,000 for the bicentennial field watering. In my mind, that's prioritization. We can find something to do with that money that benefits the town.
And then if the stipends are approved, do we have the money in our budget that exists right now under Article 5 that we just got copies of tonight to cover these stipends, or are we going to have to cut something somewhere else in order to be able to cover it?
Well, it does say
No, they're in there.
salaries of
there.
elected officials are included in the Department Appropriations to be submitted within
Okay.
Article 5.
Okay, so we are taking into consideration that we're appropriating for the stipends. Now, there's an amendment on the floor that's going to lower these stipends, but we do have the funding in there available. Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Diana Cohane, 15 Chard Road. I have a question and then a comment. First of all, if somebody has more than one of these elected offices, do they get paid 2 stipends? That's my question.
I believe so.
So if we have somebody that's a Board of Selectmen and on the Planning Board, they're going to receive both stipends, not just the higher one?
That is correct.
Okay. And so my comment is I support Karen Pulio's motion to reduce this to go back to the 2004, the last time stipends were paid. We do appreciate having served on one of the boards and knowing that we put our own money in, our own time in, our own effort. We do appreciate that, and I do think we need to restore stipends, but I really think it needs to be more planful, it needs to be more fair, and we need to look at all the boards and not just the ones that said that they wanted the money. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any last discussion, Article 4?
Mr. Moderator,
Yep, Selectman?
thank you. Just to speak quickly to where these figures came from, at last night's meeting, the town administrator explained that the selectmen had received $1,200 each. Did the chair receive more, or was it $1,200 as well?
Yeah, I think it was $1,200.
$1,200.
Right? Yep.
So we increased that to $1,800 and gave the chair a bump. Most of the other boards, you'll see the chair receives a little bit more. And the idea was to not exceed $10,000. There was a comment from one of the other selectmen about making sure that the total amount of stipends for selectmen didn't exceed $10,000. So that's how that was divided. We then compared the $1,800 to the $1,200. It was a factor of 1.5. So we went through all the other boards. If we had restored them to what they were in 2004, increased them by 1.5, those are the figures that you saw. So it wasn't just picking numbers out of the air. We did have numbers that historically were paid and approved by the town, and we gave them all slight percentage increases across the board.
Thank you for the clarification, sir.
Robert Kears, 150 Sherburne Avenue. I would just like to know, like, the nuts and bolts of how these stipends work. Let me just, one example that I'd be curious about. Now, I think it was last month or a couple months ago, and it was on the school committee. One of the school committee members just up and left, and there was an appointment made. Let's say one of the selectmen here gets the stipend. I'll just use July 1st as the period when they start to be paid. So July 1st, they get their stipend. They get the whole thing. July 5th, one of the selectmen says, I gotta go. My family, my job, whatever. He takes that money and off he goes. Then, so there's a new appointment. He's gone with his stipend. So now someone is appointed to take his position. Does he get the stipend? Is there any way that this money is paid, say, per meeting? There could be a tragedy on one of the selectmen or anybody that's getting paid. And, you know, as horrible as it is, if they're out, say, I don't know, 2 months, they miss all these meetings, they still get their stipend. Now, it's listed as salary, but you say it's a stipend. Okay. So it seems like, to me, there's built-in benefits already. If it's just we get the stipend and that's it, then you automatically have sick leave and you automatically have vacation time. If you want to miss a meeting, there's no financial penalty other than you weren't there. You still get your stipend. That's just one thing that bothers me. And another thing is, when I look at this board here, I know at least 3 of you are now, at least 2 are now into your 3rd term, I believe. And at least 3 of you are into your 2nd term. And there was just an election, and one of the selectmen just got reelected. So now he's going to be into his 3rd term. Let me ask you something. 6 years ago, when you were running, was it in the back of your mind that I want to get a stipend? When did this all come about? Nobody asked you to run for selectman. And the fact that we don't have 5 selectmen, we now have 1 appointed. Is he entitled to the stipend?
Who's appointed?
I thought there was an appointment.
No.
Didn't somebody
No.
retire?
No,
So
everybody here has been elected.
Okay, but there was an appointment before, right?
I can guarantee you that when I ran for selectman, I didn't run
No,
to
I'm
get
not talking
to
about
get
you.
like a dollar a
Yeah,
week.
let's bring this meeting
You-
back.
you know,
Well,
you
you
it's-
asked about stipends, and where does this all come from? Historically, stipends
Okay.
were paid for years.
Well, where's the
Way
nuts and
back when I
bolts?
was started as a moderator, I got a stipend all the way up to '04, and then it changed. That's all it is. It was $150 a year. That's what I got. I got paid 1 check. It wasn't $15 a month. 1 check a year. I suppose if I got sick and someone took my position, I could have given them the $75, but I didn't. You know, it's real. You're talking small stuff here. I would
Really?
hope that.
Let me tell you
understand-
something.
well, no, let me
It's
tell
not
you
small
something.
stuff
One
to
moment.
me,
One
okay?
moment,
It's
please.
not
One-
small stuff.
One moment, please. Come on up and work with us. This is not easy work. We try our best. I love this town. That's why I do it. Why I've continued to do it 12 years with no stipend. What? I think we're making a mountain out of an old hill here. Let's pick a figure that we're comfortable with, or no figure at all, and move on.
That's it.
Well, apparently I'm being told to quiet down and not say anything.
You have spoke.
No, I haven't spoken.
Oh, you have well spoken. Speak something new. Give me something new.
I'm talking about these stipends.
I understand.
This is a town meeting amongst the town people. It is up to us to decide the future of this town.
Absolutely
The
correct. You're gonna get
selectmen
that chance.
and all these other people here, they're looking for the money. Why? And now, I remember at the meeting,
All your questions come right through me. No
okay,
point.
okay.
Let's be
All
adults.
the last meeting, one of the selectmen made reference to, well, I'm going to run for another office because he wanted to restrict how many people could have could hold office.
That was salary, not stipends.
Okay, it
But
doesn't-
that's not, we are talking about stipends here.
Okay, I understand that, but there's going to be a feeding frenzy. Now, all of a sudden,
On
you're going to have...
stipends.
Yes.
On stipends.
They're going to run for different offices. Whichever
on.
board... Come on, he already said it. He already
On
said I can
salary,
run.
you're outside the warrant article. We're talking stipends.
Didn't-
My $150.
Okay. I hope you vote it down, people, because this is not necessary. If they don't want to be on these boards, step down. The Finance Committee said no because they know these people should be volunteering their time. That's what this town is about.
This town was giving stipends for years.
Okay, that's wrong.
So that was, so it was
Where's
wrong
this
for
money
years.
coming from? Where's all this money coming from?
Your pockets and mine.
Exactly.
Where's all
Well-
the money come from?
Let me tell you something. At my age, I'm on a fixed income. Is there anybody else here that's having a little bit of a tough time making ends
You
meet?
get to vote no,
What
Mr.
about the
Kearse.
people?
You get to vote no.
What about the young
vote
people?
Vote it down.
I
think-
will.
is it-
But I'm asking the town people here that are going to have to pay for
Okay,
this
Mr.
to
Kearse,
join me and
sit
vote
down,
no.
please, unless you have something new to speak of. There's other people that want to speak.
Well,
Thank you.
I just hope you vote no.
There you go.
Carrie Colburn Dion, 6 Cornell Drive, Town Treasurer, Collector, and Finance Coordinator. I can answer the questions about stipends. Stipends can only be paid after time served in the office. They are not paid up front. They can be paid on a monthly basis, quarterly, or at the end of the fiscal year. So there will be no double payments of stipends. If someone leaves, they won't receive a stipend from that point forward. People who receive stipends, there was a question about they get sick time and vacation time. There is no sick time and vacation time for elected officials other than those who work a regular work week, which right now is the town clerk. That's it. No one else would get any kind of sick or vacation time. So I think that the questions really, the stipends are just received when service is done.
Thank you. Any last discussion, Article 4?
Mr. Moderator?
Selectman.
Thank you. Just to be clear, the Finance Committee, under Mass General Law, cannot receive any compensation for their positions. So I commend them for not wanting it, but under Mass General Law, they can't get it anyways, even if y'all wanted to give it to them.
Thank you for that clarification.
Also, the gentleman who just spoke a minute ago, he referenced why some of us up here for years have sat here before you and have done this work, putting in lots of hours. And I know for me, a lot of the obvious answers are to give back to the community, but really one of it is to be able to sit here and listen to someone like you talk to us in the way that you did, and we're sitting here asking for pennies. And a lot of us sitting here don't even want it anyways. So, you should go vote how you want to vote, but,
Bring it through the moderator. Bring it right to here.
Well, let me ask you something.
Please.
Anybody here, just raise your hand, that will not accept the stipend? What are you going to do with it? Where does it go?
It's a gesture.
It's a gesture that
If you don't
isn't
like
necessary.
it, Mr. Kearse, I've told you, please vote no on both.
My gesture to them to say thank you was I voted for them. That was their gesture. That was my thank you. Now they want money? It's not right.
It's kind of tough to hear all that from you, I got to tell you. But go right ahead. You have every right to speak as you speak. And who might you be, sir?
Warren Allgrove, Massapog Road. When I was a selectman, we got, I believe, I can't even really remember, but it was either $100 a month stipend. You got $1,200 a year. That was $100 a month. It cost $200 a month in buying tickets and flowers and every other thing that you have to buy when you're a selectman. So it used to cost you $100 a month, even though you got $100. So it costs $200 a month to be a selectman. It's a lot of work. People don't realize the hours you put in, and they don't care. All they want is they want to come to one meeting, and they want to tell you everything that they know about what's going on in the town. You put in hours and hours. You're dealing with all the different departments. It's a lot of work. I don't even know if you want to say what they're asking for. What they deserve to get is some kind of compensation so that maybe they can take out their spouse, maybe they can go on a week's vacation. I don't really care what they do with the money. I just hope they enjoy it a little bit for tolerating all of what they have to tolerate during the hours that they're working for us in the town. This is beyond a gesture. It's deserved. And every department should be giving out some sort of financial benefit to the people. Now, yes, they do come and they do serve their community, but it's not watching a baseball game. It's work where people are irritated, just like you're angry tonight about it. That happens every night. That's the personal phone calls. It never stops. We should vote on this. We should give them the stipend that they actually deserve, and the one they deserve is what they're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to move the question. It's been asked around the room. We have two sets of figures before us. Does everyone understand that we'll be taking the lower motion or amendment first? We have a motion and a second for lower figures. I can read those figures again. Do you need them read? Do we understand what we're voting for? We have two sets of figures. We'll start, moderators, 500 recommended, 200 would put back to the lower figure. Did anyone write out those other figures? Are we ready to vote? Are we comfortable voting?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I ask if you would re-explain that. I have a question. You say that we're going to vote on the amendment first.
We'll vote for the lower figure first always,
Right.
yes.
If that passes, do we then also vote for the higher number?
No, that's it. And that, I'm glad you made that clarification. If that passes, then the original just goes away.
Thank you.
Yeah. If that then doesn't pass, then I go to the original. If that doesn't pass, then we're moving on to Article 5, I'm sorry, with no stipends at all. Everyone understands where we're at? Taking the lower figure first. Article 4 with the amended figure, again, I'm going to pick on the moderator, of $200 and down from there. All those in favor of those stipends, the amended stipends, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, that does not pass. I have a recommended figure, again, I'm going to pick on the moderator, of $500, and I think you understand the other figures. They're in the sheet below. All those in favor of Article 4 for the total recommended figures, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. That does pass, Article 4. Article 5, oh no. Folks, at this point, because it is the hour, we are going to need to make a motion to temporarily adjourn the meeting. I'd like to entertain that motion.
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to temporarily postpone town meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That does carry. We're going to move to the special town meeting, which starts at 7:30 or so. Now, you ask, what is the difference? The difference is the special town meeting is spending money in this year. The town's calendar year is July 1st to June 30th. So this is money that will be spent or needs to be allocated before the end of June 30. Everything else we're talking about is next year. That's the annual town meeting. So now we are in this year's money. Article number 1, department transfers from available funds. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate by transfer from available funds, and or appropriate by transfer from one or more municipal government accounts a sum of money to supplement various municipal government groups for fiscal year 2016, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on Article 1 of the special?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate by transfer from one or more municipal government accounts to supplement various municipal government accounts for the fiscal year 2016 as printed in the Finance Committee report and meeting guidebook.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 1. Discussion, please. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, this article will transfer funds to address deficiencies in various department budgets.
Thank you. Any discussion, Article 1? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 1 on the special, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 2, transfer of funds for town collector's retirement. To see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds $10,813.62 for the town collector's planned retirement in May 2016, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on Article 2?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $10,813.62 from Department 122, Selectmen Salaries and Wages, to Department 146, Town Collector's Salaries and Wages, for the purpose of funding the town collector's planned retirement in May 2016.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, this article allows the retired collector to be paid for unused vacation and sick time that was earned while employed by the town for 24 years.
Thank you. Any discussion, Article 2? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 2 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 3, transfer of funds for school Medicaid. To see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer from free cash, available funds, the sum of $139,965.56 to supplement the Tingsboro school budget for fiscal year 2016 to be expended by the school committee. Said amount represents reimbursements made through June 30, 2015 from the municipal Medicaid program for school services provided to eligible residents, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on Article 3?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move that the town vote to approve Article 3 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Thank you. On Article 3, discussion. It may just speak for itself. Any discussion, Article 3? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 3 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 4 of the special town meeting, approve payment of prior year unpaid bills. To see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer from fiscal year 2016 departmental appropriations the following amounts to pay prior year's bills, or take any other action relative thereto. And you see listed below 2 bills to the Lowell Publishing Company, the same exact amount, $266.64. Do we have a motion on Article 4?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 4 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 4. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 4 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry unanimous. Article 5, transfer from the sewer enterprise. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate by transfer from available funds, and/or appropriate by transfer from one or more municipal government accounts, an amount to be expended by the sewer commissioners, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 5. Selectman?
Mr. Moderator, Jeff Hannaford.
Yep.
Tingsboro Sewer Commission. We're withdrawing the article. We have no need for the transfer.
Thank you. I have a motion to withdraw. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Article 5's motion to withdraw. Discussion. I think I heard just a little bit of explanation there. Thank you. No, I think we're all set. Unless you want to explain. I'm good. Jeff's good? I'm good?
Motion to adjourn.
No. All those in favor of Article 5's motion to withdraw, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 5 motion to withdraw. I would now like to entertain a motion to adjourn from the special.
So moved.
Adjourn from the special.
Sure, okay, and a second.
Second.
All those in favor of motion to adjourn from the special signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Okay, folks, now we're going to scoot back to the annual town meeting, Article 5. So get out your books. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds such sums of money as may be necessary to fund town expenses for fiscal year 2017, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on Article 5?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to waive the reading of the balance of this article.
Valid question. Continue.
I move,
Do we need a motion and a second on that?
Second.
So go ahead.
I'll go second.
Yeah.
and I move that the town raise and appropriate the amounts in Article 5 as shown in the recommended column of the FY 2017 Selectmen Proposed column of the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 5.
I'd like to talk on line item. Department 301, Greater Lowell Regional School.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. What we're doing here, folks, if you're kind of new to this, is Article 5, as I'm sure you've seen, is quite a few pages in this book. If there's one in particular that you want to to learn more about or aren't comfortable with, we're going to pull those out on their own, and line item 301 was just pulled, thank you, Gus. And we'll discuss that after. We'll then pass the rest of Article 5, and then we'll go back at these numbers, and yea or nay them, and finish off 5. Yes, please.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Kathleen Spaeth, and I live at 2 Minuteman Drive. I'd like to discuss Department 193, Information Technology, Department 199, Media and Technology,
What's it, I'm sorry, what's it?
Department 199.
Yeah, I heard the, what's it called?
Media and Technology.
Thank you. Media, yeah.
Department 215, Communication Center. Department 430, Waste Collection and Disposal. Department 710, Long-Term Debt Principal.
710?
Yes, sir. Long-term debt principal. Department 751, long-term debt interest.
One more time,
751. Long-term debt interest. Department 910, employee benefits. And then I just want to go on the record that the Finance Committee report and meeting guidebook was not posted on the website until 3:30 this afternoon, and that many people did not get a hard copy of this until they walked into town meeting tonight.
Okay, I have on the floor, let me make sure I get these right, line item 193, 199, 215, 430, 710, 751, and 910. Do I have a second? Okay, I do have a second. Any others? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 5 as printed, Selectmen proposed column, pulling out these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line items. All those in favor of the rest of Article 5, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Okay, I'm going to try to take them in order. So we're going to start at 193 IT. The presenter, the question, come on up, please. That's quite all right.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Certainly.
My name is Kathleen Spaeth, and I live at 2 Minuteman Drive. So Department 193, Information Technology, has an increase of $74,594. Can that be explained where the increase is coming in and what that's going to be, and why there's such a very large increase this year over last year?
All right. The school want to speak on this or something? Okay, thank you.
Sure. This point last year, we did not have an IT professional within the town. We had what we used as a media and IT person that was funded partially through the PEG account, which is Public Education and Government. So their full-time job was really focusing on access television and not IT. On occasion, they would assist the town, but mostly they focused on the access TV. The Board of Selectmen, through my recommendation to them, voted to support creating that position back in this past fall, so that we allowed to split those positions so community access could focus on community access. We could have an individual that we could hire to focus on information technology within the municipal side of the government. That position was hired at a part-time position of 18 hours per week. We're proposing to increase that to 40 hours a week, partially paid through the public education government access, because they would be doing some work back to the cable access, but the majority of the work would be working for the town. So that is a proposed increase in an employee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Any other questions on 193? Sure. At this point, folks, we're only speaking on the one line item. We'll work our way right down through the
On
numbers.
193, how much money do we get back from the cable companies? Because they're supposed to reimburse the town money to run that operation. Am I correct or incorrect?
No, the information technology, which is Department 193, would be funded through the town raising and appropriating taxes. It would not be funded through public education and government access. That would be the media and technology, which is under
Then I have to
199.
It's going to be 199? Right. Come on.
Then I have to ask the question again.
Yes.
That's right. Exactly right. Hearing no further discussion on line item 193, all those in favor of line item 193 IT signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That does carry. 199 media. Don't sit down for long, Gus. That's fine. Media and technology.
All right, so Department 199, Media and Technology, it's a $133,086 increase from last year to this year. So could you kindly explain to us why and how much of that is funded through the PEG enterprise money that we receive? Does that help, Gus?
Thank you. Little tag team going on here. Kurt?
Yes, thank you. The Department 199, Media and Technology, that's completely funded through the PEG, which is Public Education Government. It's for the cable access. The increase is, again, we went from a part-time person to now a full-time person that's focusing on public access. They're going to use part of our information technology administrator to assist them. They've also hired another part-time individual. And the main reason is that we currently don't have a studio in town. And the focus is on to get a studio, take advantage of the Verizon and the Comcast channels that we have available, and basically take that to the next step. So the funding is coming out of money that we receive through Comcast and Verizon, so it's not based on any of the taxpayers'
I think
funds.
that was really the presenter's question. Sure.
So,
Ask, so I believe that account's called the PEG, P-E-G account. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
And then in turn, do we ever get any excess money available from the PEG account? I think I saw our warrant article a little further down, and maybe I'm not in the four corners of this one, and forgive me, Mr. Moderator. But are we going to get enough PEG money to cover this, such a large increase? And then in turn, if we do get more excess money, we can then use that somewhere else to lower our tax rate or operational, or what happens?
no, it's similar to an enterprise fund, different, but basically we manage the employees through the town, through paying them their salaries and benefits and things like that. We use that PEG money to supplement that cost to the town. They are looking at constructing a new studio, buying new equipment that hasn't been done for several years. That is shown under the Capital Asset Management Committee's report, so you can get some additional information under that as well. And if going forward this fall, you'll hear the Board of Selectmen will be meeting with the media director and talk about the studio and moving forward for that. So we'll have more information as we go forward with that as well. But it's all through the PEG account.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Any further discussion, line item 199 of Article 5? Hearing none, all those in favor of line item 199, Article 5, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That does carry. Line item 215, Communications Center. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Kathleen, go right
I
ahead.
wanted to make sure the moderator's
Yep.
paying attention
Yeah,
to
he's
me.
not
Sorry. Department 215 Communication Center. So there's an increase of $18,980 from last year to this year. Could you kindly explain why that is?
Yep, I'll be happy to, and then Chief Howe can add additional information. The Police Chief, Richard Howard, requested additional hours to be used for the 911 dispatch center so that we can address the needs of receiving calls and dispatching vehicles in emergency situations.
Good evening, Rich Howe, Tingsboro Police Chief. So 11,000 of that number is for adding part-time dispatchers during the week, specifically to the 3 to 11 shift. We went up over 3,000 calls serviced through the communications center this past year. So if you can imagine throughout a year, the impact that has. We went from 21,000 and change to over 24,000 in calls. My goal is to get 2 dispatchers on as much as possible on 3 to 11 shift. We have 6 full-time dispatchers covering 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. It's not possible without part-time staff. And what happens is, people get vacation time, they get sick time, they get bereavement time, et cetera. And if you've ever been in our dispatch center, they dispatch fire, they dispatch police, ambulance, including answering your phone calls, et cetera, and taking care of people coming to the window. It's an extremely busy job, specifically 3 to 11 shift. It's a public safety issue. The other 8,000 or so is contractual raises that came up in contract.
Thank you for the explanation. Yes, sir?
Tim Madden, Fire Chief. I'd just like to reiterate what Chief House said. In 2009, the ISO came in here and they did an overview of our community. And that's what bases what our insurance rates are. At that time, we took the amount of dispatch calls that we had, and per their standard, it warranted that there be 3 dispatches on all the time. Now, obviously, from 2009 to today, the call volume has increased dramatically. Anyone that's watched TV has seen the big events that unfortunately have occurred in our community.
A little closer to the mic, please.
And if you listen to the dispatch logs, if you have that opportunity, it is amazing the amount of work and the calls that they have to take. This is absolute necessity. We're attempting to get the dispatch number to 2. This won't fulfill that, but it will help it dramatically. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. Further discussion, line item 215, Communication Center of Article 5.
I'd like to ask the chief, we had a problem once with the 9/11 line went down. How was that resolved, or? You remember that?
No.
No, 9/11 went down. We could have used it. We had a storm.
Yep.
And the 9/11 went down.
Our 911 system automatically gets rerouted through Westford, automatically. So if it went down, I'm not sure with the circumstance. A few years ago. Okay. It automatically reroutes. Our 911 system is always up. If it goes down, it goes to Westford. So, and we actually are about to install over the next month Enhanced 911. So, going to a new system.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Line item 215 of Article 5. Hearing none, all those in favor of line item 215, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Line item 301, Greater Lowell vote. Point of order? Or you? I assume you're talking.
Now, last vote, I thought I was a little late. What number were we voting on there?
We were on Communication Center, line item 215.
Which amount, 426.8 or the 418.9? I wasn't sure which one we were voting on.
I'm just going with what's proposed.
Selectmen proposed. The motion was for a selectmen proposed column. Yep.
Okay, that's, I thought so, but I want to make sure.
Sure. So that was a point of order. Very good, Gus. Come on down, 301. 301, Greater Lowell Regional School.
I don't know if I should be talking on this because I think there's a lot of controversy on how much we pay for Greater Lowell for our people. However, Greater Lowell happens to be in Tingsboro, and they use our services. Am I right, Chief? Yes, sir. Chief? Yes. Now, shouldn't there be something where we can get some of that money back? I think you people are working on that. Am I right?
Do the selectmen
So,
want to...
thank you, Gus. Chief, go ahead.
I just want to point out one thing, Gus, and you are correct. I agree with you. The Volk School does pay for a school resource officer, part of the salary. The high school or the public schools pay for about 40% of Sergeant Steve Manning's salary. The Volk School pays for the other 60%.
Thank you for the clarification. Selectmen?
So the system that's set up, I totally support the budget for Greater Lowell. The system that's set up is the town of Tingsboro is charged based on our income, a standard that's set by the state. So there's what our complaint is that we do host the school, and let's say in rough numbers we get charged maybe $11,000 per student, $10,000 to $11,000 per student, and then the state with Chapter 70 money comes in and pays another $4,000 or $5,000. What we have difficulty with is the numbers are reversed for like Lowell. Lowell will pay $4,000 per student. The state will reimburse $11,000. And what we're proposing to send to our legislators is that if we host the school, and being the size of the community that we are, and hosting the largest vocational school in the state, that maybe because we host the school, that we should not be charged any more than the lowest community contributor, which would be Lowell. If that adjustment was made, it would probably save the town of Tingsboro between $800,000, $900,000. It would take an act of legislator. We will be proposing it to our state reps and our state rep and our state senator to ask them to bring that forward. We've had long discussions about this, and that's our intention and what we want to move forward with.
But today's reality puts us to the figure we're at.
Right. It doesn't affect today. I think it's something that we need to look at in the future, or we are working on toward in the future.
Thank you. Further discussion, line item 301.
Good evening, my name is Mike Moran, 20 Dunlop Street, Chair of the School Committee. I support this, passing this one here, but the real thing is that we would also need everyone's help in the town to actually help lobby the legislators. So I just want to make it on record that I was disappointed that I went down there with someone else from the administration of the school to actually lobby the, Colleen Gary and Diane, thank you.
Donahue?
Yes, Ms. Donahue. And they weren't there, they weren't available for us. So that was very, it was very sad that they weren't there to actually hear us for the Day of the Hill. So for this one here, just please support this one to pass. But I also want you to support the selectmen in their endeavors to speak to our legislators, because this is important for us as a community.
Thank you for the clarification. Any further discussion, Department 301? Hearing none, all those in favor of Department 301 as proposed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Department 430, Waste. Right top of the page, 430, Waste. Kathleen?
Mr. Moderator, my name is Kathleen Spaeth, 2 Minuteman Drive. I'm getting my exercise tonight. Department 430, Waste Collection and Disposal. There's an increase of $50,241 from last year. I thought we negotiated a contract, and I guess I'm not understanding why there's an increase from last year to this year. I thought we had a set rate.
Selectman want to answer that? Or,
I think the
there we go. Thank you. Yep.
Carrie Colburn-Dion, Town Treasurer. The reason is that one thing is we found that we've had a shortfall in the account this year. We transferred $20,000 during the special town meeting to that account just a short while ago. And we've also been using grant and revolving funds to help pay down what is owed on the waste bill, because we do have some revolving funds that have been building up over the years.
Any further questions? Department 30, Waste. Hearing none, all those in favor of Department 430 as proposed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Department 710, Long-Term Debt.
Mr. Moderator, Kathleen Spaeth, 2 Minuteman Drive. Department 710, Long-Term Debt Principal, actually. There's a $666,909 increase from last year to this year. So it sounds like we're paying off our long-term debt principal, which is very good. It's a very large amount, and it could be that, I'm sure our treasurer is going to explain this. She's standing behind me. It could be that certain debt we have to pay larger amounts as we go on during the year from one year to the other, but I would just like it explained a little further for me, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
The actual amount for fiscal 16 should be $1,342,715. It was a Scrivener's error. I can read it again.
Let's go ahead and answer the question.
It is decreased from last year. We are paying down some of our debt. And we're going to have the same thing with departments $1,342,715.
One more time on the figure.
It was just a Scrivener's
I
error.
know, but what was the number supposed to be?
$1,342,715.
That's FY '16,
Yes,
not the proposed FY '17.
right, that's
Okay.
fiscal year 16 actual number. So it's actually gone down.
The
Yes.
661 is wrong.
Yes, 661 is incorrect.
Oh, well, that's helpful. So what is that at?
That's the number,
Oh, I totally misunderstood.
$1,342,715.
Okay. So we've
That's
gone
the
down
number
from-
for fiscal 16. And can I give the number for fiscal 16 for the interest also?
No.
No, okay.
You cannot. Any further discussion, line item 710? Hearing none, all those in favor of line item 710 as proposed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Now, line item 751. Kathleen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr.
Carrie's on deck.
Moderator. Hold on.
Yep.
Department 751, long-term debt interest.
Correct.
There's a $44,000 increase, $44,357 increase from last year to this year, and perhaps that number is a Scrivener's error possibly too. I don't know, but I'm hoping for an explanation. Thank you.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. Carrie, since you're right there.
Fiscal 16 number is $341,730, so it is a decrease from last year.
So again, Scrivener's error on the 16
Yes.
figure?
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you for that explanation. Any further discussion, line item 751? Hearing none, all those in favor of line item 751 as proposed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Line item 910, employee benefits.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Kathleen Spaeth, and I live at 2 Minuteman Drive, Department 910, Employee Benefits. There is a $691,860 increase from last year to this year. Could I have an explanation as to why?
Who would like to speak to line item 910?
Okay, the fiscal 16 number was $5,054,011. So it's a $430,000 increase, which I can provide explanations for if you'd like.
So I'm sorry, the 16 figure one more time. 5 million?
$5,054,011.
Sure. Further discussion? Thank you.
So we've had increases, that account number is made up of various employee benefits. The payment to county retirement, Middlesex County Retirement, for a retirement assessment on the town to fund existing employees and retirees' benefits, and that's just over $1.5 million. We had an increase in workers' compensation this year, across the town. Unemployment has decreased in the town. Health insurance, like everyone else, has increased for both town employees and retirees. Our increase was about 7.7%. We have a small life insurance policy for town employees that's $2,700. There was no impact on that. And FICA or Medicare taxes on payroll have increased due to the increase in the total payroll that we pay to our town employees.
Thank you for the explanation. Any further discussion, line item 910? Hearing none, all those in favor of line item 910, Article 5, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I'm sorry, you asking for proposed 2017? No, the vote's already been taken. I'm not sure if I understand.
The amount of
Carrie, you
that
can bring
line
it right
item
to Gus.
is as written.
Oh, no, he wants to know the big,
The total's off.
the total totals. Those are, the total is off then for 16?
For 16.
Point of order, maybe?
I don't know.
No, not yet.
I think I just want to know if there's any others that are having a hard time voting. I mean, there's not knowing if there's any others have you already approved.
We've approved every other except for the one, two,
Based
three.
on the numbers in the book.
Yeah, selectmen proposed. Right. Right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion with the Scribner errors, folks. Article 6.
We already did.
To see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer from the Billboard Stabilization Fund the sum of $20,000 to be expended by the Board of Selectmen to be used to stabilize the tax rate for fiscal year 2017 by funding recreational, public safety, or other public services, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on Article 6?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move that the town vote to approve Article 6 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guide book.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 6. Any explanation or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 6 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry unanimous. Article 7, see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer the sum of $5,000 from the Wetland Protection Fund to stabilize the tax rate for fiscal year 2017, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on 7?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 7 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second for Article 7. Any discussion? Explanation?
Mr. Moderator, this transfer is part of the overall funding to support the Conservation Department.
Thank you for that explanation. Any discussion? Article 7. Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 7 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer the sum of $242,140 from the PEG Fund to stabilize the tax rate for fiscal year 2017, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 8.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve Article 8 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, the Department of Revenue now requires the towns to annually appropriate funds received in connection with a franchise agreement between the town's cable operators and the town. These monies shall be only appropriated for cable-related purposes consistent with the franchise agreement, including but not limited to support of public, educational, or government access cable television services, monitoring the franchise license, or take any action
Oh, you missed a
related
line.
thereto. Did I miss one?
Yeah, monitoring compliance of the cable operator with the franchise agreement, or 3, preparing for the renewal of the franchise license.
Or take any other action related thereto. This will now be a regular article at our annual town meeting. This change was introduced by the Department of Revenue for purpose of review, measurement, and oversight.
Thank you, Selectmen. Discussion, please, Article 8. Maybe self-explanatory? All those in favor of Article 8 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 9, transfer to stabilization, our savings account. To see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer the sum of $576,656.06 from free cash to the following funds, or take any other action relative thereto. And you see we are transferring from free cash to stabilization and capital asset stabilization fund. Do I have a motion on Article 9?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 9 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second for Article 9. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, this article seeks to move funds into the town's savings account called a stabilization fund. This is a fund designed to accumulate amounts for future spending purposes, although it may be appropriated for any lawful purposes under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Paragraphs 5B. Communities may establish one or more stabilization funds for different purposes and may appropriate into them in any year an amount not to exceed 10% of the prior year's tax levy. Any interest shall be added to and become part of the funds. A 2/3 vote of town meeting is required to establish, amend the purpose of, or appropriate money from the stabilization fund.
Thank you for that succinct explanation. Do I have any discussion, Article 9? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 9's transfer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry unanimous. Article 10, transfer of funds. To see if the town will vote to appropriate by transfer the sum of $100,914.81 from free cash to the following funds, or take any other action relative thereto. Again, you see the transfer from free cash, and the two funds it's going into is other post-employment benefits, liability trust fund, and compensated absence fund. Do I have a motion on Article 10?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 10 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
I have a motion. Do I have a second on Article 10?
Second.
I have a second explanation. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 10 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 11, appropriation, capital improvements for fiscal year 2017. To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $283,522, and that the town be authorized to accept any available grant dollars for the following purposes. And you can read down through each one: fire department, police, highway, selectmen, IT, school, and school. For the total I already gave. Is there a motion on Article 11?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 11 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 11. Do I have explanation, please?
Mr. Moderator, capital improvement projects are major non-routine expenditures for new construction, major equipment purchases, or improvement to existing buildings, facilities, land, or infrastructure with an estimated useful life of 5 years or more. Items in this plan are typically funded by debt. For fiscal year 2017, the Capital Asset Management Committee is recommending using free cash rather than borrowing.
Thank you for that explanation. Discussion, please.
Drive. In particular, on Article 11, I'd like to discuss the Department Selectmen Town Offices improvements, amount not to exceed $62,846 expended by selectmen. Could I have a further explanation as to what these town office improvements are, please?
Certainly. Selectman?
Mr. Town Administrator can answer that one.
Yeah, there are several improvements we're looking to make throughout Town Hall. Some are in reference to making Town Hall more ADA compliant. There's some other work, for example, trim work that needs to be replaced. There's a door that has some issues with leaking and getting water in through that. There are some other doors that are stick and don't lock properly. So there's several checklist items that we want to get fixed and maintained for Town Hall.
Moderator, are we eligible to apply for grants, in particular ADA compliance from the state for reimbursement for any of these improvements that would be taking place in Town Hall?
Well, it's briefly mentioned in the article that the town would be authorized to accept any available grants. Beyond that, the selectman would have to answer that question.
Have we applied for
I
any grants?
don't know
Are
of
there
any
available?
specific ADA grants, but
Okay.
something
All
we
right.
could always look into.
Okay, all right, so we haven't explored that option yet
No.
to see if there's any available. Okay, great. And then I do want to commend the Capital Asset Management Committee for recommending that we use free cash rather than borrowing. I am happy to hear that we have some free cash available, considering we had such a large increase in our budget from last year to this year, and that's commendable. Thank you.
Thank you. Any last discussion, Article 11, the general town meeting? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry unanimous. Article 12, appropriation sewer enterprise fund for fiscal year 2017. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to be expended by the sewer commission to operate the sewer enterprise fund for fiscal year 2017 as follows, or take any other action relative thereto, and that the following sums shall be appropriated. And you can see the sums listed down. Do I have a motion on Article 12?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 12 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, Article 12. Explanation, please?
Mr.
Oh, okay, Selectman?
Mr. Moderator, this article would authorize funding for the operation of the sewer department for fiscal year 2016.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Article 12? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 12 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 13, appropriation, ambulance enterprise fund for fiscal year 2017. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to be expended by the Board of Fire Engineers to operate the ambulance enterprise fund for fiscal year 2017 as follows, and that the following sums shall be appropriated. I'll read down those figures. Do I have a motion on Article 13?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 13 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second for Article 13. I'm sorry. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, the purpose of this article is to fund the Ambulance Enterprise Fund. The fund is supported by fees collected through ambulance charges. The Board of Fire Engineers establishes the total expenses of the department, including debt service, direct and indirect expenses. Indirect costs are associated with general government costs and fringe benefits that are related to the operation of the ambulance service and are expensed through the general fund or operating budget. An affirmative or yes vote will ensure the operation of the ambulance service.
Thank you for that explanation. Discussion, please.
Robert Pierce, 50 Sherburne Avenue. I commended that we want to have our own ambulance, but the way it is right now, I would be very concerned that people are going to be hurt in this town. According to an article in the paper, I don't know if anybody wants to comment about the article, but I'd like to know how many ambulances we are going to have. And according to the article, there's only 3 people that are actually EMTs in the Tingsboro Fire Department. That's what the article says. If they want to correct it, that's fine.
Yeah.
My concern is that I believe, I'm under the impression that the fire department is an on-call fire department. So if these 2 firemen are off, who mans the ambulance? I'm very concerned that we're not going to have enough personnel, that we're going to end the contract with Trinity. Now, just from my own experience, using Lowell as an example, there is Patriot Ambulance, there's Pride Star, and we have Trinity ourselves. Now, according to the article, we're not getting any money from the ambulance company when they transport. Can't we use some kind of leverage with these people that will give us some of this money? Because I am very concerned that this town, if we end this contract with Trinity, we're not going to have the necessary personnel to man this town 24 hours a day. And the article included a statement from the guy that owns Trinity, Chemily. He brings up a very good point that if there is a multiple incident, separate but multiple in different parts of the town, where are these ambulances going to come from? How many ambulances are we going to have? And maybe this is a first step, put the money aside for now, but I don't think this is a good idea that we're going to, 2 months ago there was a major accident right there at the Tingsboro Bridge. How's the town going to respond if the firemen are at a fire call or, the perfect storm situations? There's going to be multiple perfect storm situations where the fire department is responding, the ambulance is tied up, some kid gets stung by a bee, goes into anaphylactic shock. The kid's playing soccer, all these sports. How's the ambulance going to respond if they're not available? And what if we need more, 4, 5 ambulances? I'm just very concerned that, yes, this is a good thing, but to end the contract with Trinity, I think we're asking for trouble. And I think we should do something about, before we approve this article, if it's going to result in canceling with Trinity, I think we're asking for some serious trouble. And if that's the answer, that yes, we have to pass this and then end the contract, I don't want this article to pass if those are the conditions.
Without answers to your questions, I would have to agree with you. Let's give the folks a chance to answer and then have you come back up once you hear those answers.
Mr. Moderator,
Selectman?
I would ask the chairman of the Board of Fire Engineers to address those issues.
Valid questions.
Art Michaud, 206 Westwood Road.
You can bring that up a little harder if you need to.
Yeah, we're going to hold that up.
Mr. Chair, the reason I have asked that is I believe Mr. Michaud brought forward an overview a couple of times in the last year that addresses many of the issues that I believe were brought up, and I didn't mean to cut you short.
Right, okay, thank you, Selectman Corliss. So for some people that maybe don't have the background on this, the fire department, really back in the 80s and 90s, as we saw the increase of emergency medical calls come up, we started looking at how to staff and how to support and how to, basically answer the 911 calls that you make as citizens. The vast majority, I don't have the exact number, the chief does, of our firefighters are all EMTs. I think maybe there's one, maybe that isn't. That's one of the requirements.
A little closer to the mic, please.
That's one of the requirements of being a firefighter is you have to also be an EMT or getting to that point of getting there. So our staff is a hybrid system. We schedule personnel during the weekdays because originally when we were a volunteer department, there were a lot of people that worked in town and were able to respond during the workday. Now that we're a hybrid call department, we're scheduling people weekdays because quite a few of the call firefighters work outside of town and are not available. It's also really due to the firefighters, the officers, and their families. Our firefighters put in so much time. It's really more of a, it's still a lot of volunteerism going on in the department. To have a budget of basically $700,000 and the number of calls that we're answering a year, it's quite the feat. We've been asking since forever, I think that we ask for additional personnel, and we really do need a couple of extra firefighters during the weekday. We're only running an officer and two firefighters that are scheduled during the weekdays. We really need a couple of other personnel available to improve the safety of the citizens as well as the firefighters. We've been asking for a budget to add those firefighters, about $160,000 a year, loaded with benefits. And the money's always hard to get. So back in 1999, if you were at this town meeting, the town meeting voted $10,000 to do our first study for an ambulance service. We had an independent consultant run that. It was, at that time, deemed very profitable. It was also deemed that we're in a good position. We have management, we have facilities, we have the trained EMTs to actually, purchase the capital equipment and start operating an ambulance system. What was appealing was it's non-tax based revenue. This is coming from the insurance companies that are already paying it out to an ambulance transport. The town can benefit by that. And basically, you get a better quality of service. You're getting EMTs that live in town, that know your neighborhoods, that know your streets, that know your families. And the response is good, and there's a value because we're not asking for one extra penny out of our taxes to fund that service, and it's a benefit to everybody. So what I'm going to do, and so the ambulance study committees about 18 months ago, we were formed by the Board of Selectmen because they saw the potential. Thank you very much. That we had. This was the right time to basically come back with a formal proposal. 18 months of paperwork and analysis. It's a cross-functional committee, finance committee, Capital Asset Committee, advisors the town treasurer, the chief, Chief Madden, and Selectman Graham, right, on the selectments. So it was a cross-functional group that we started there with a blank piece of paper, and we built up the numbers. We worked with consultants. We worked with the industry experts. We talked to over a dozen other fire departments running an ambulance service, and we collected data from well over 110 communities in this area. And we honed it down to say, we can do this. Now, we issued a couple of reports last March. It's issued. It should be available online. That talks about how the fire service operates today and where we'd like to go. And this past November, we did our final report, which fine-tunes the information. But I'm going to leave it now with the folks that really operate this thing to start answering how we're going to do the operations. Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you. So obviously we need to answer some serious questions here that people have. And the amount of ambulances that the town will have is a key question. It is proposed that we buy one. The Fire Association wants to come up and talk about the fact that they're going to buy another one that they can use for public events. It is our intention to have 2 ambulances for the town of Tingsboro. As everyone knows, we depend highly on our mutual aid network. If you look at the last 4 big events that the town of Tingsboro had, we required mutual aid from 4 to 5 different communities to come in here and assist us in the firefighting aspect. This is true also for EMS service, and Wes can get into that more because he's involved in the state EMS service zone plan. So fortunately, the town of Tingsboro is right in the middle of 2 big fire districts. We go to District 6 to the south, which goes all the way from Tingsboro to Burlington. We go District Southern New Hampshire Mutual Aid District to the north that goes all the way from Tingsboro to Manchester, New Hampshire. We're involved in those 2 big fire districts. There's a EMS plan for those fire districts, which would deploy numerous amounts of ambulances here. In addition to that, Wes can talk to you about how CMed actually deploys the ambulances here. And when additional ambulances are required to come to Tingsboro, some of them will be private. So a big question that was asked to me too is, okay, so if we're going to bring in other ambulance companies into the town, so obviously that other ambulance company will grab the revenue from that particular call. Yes, that is true. However, we will be going out of town. Now, will it be 1 for 1? I really can't say that. We did a little analysis this morning because the question was brought up, and I got to a similar community, talked to the chief there, went online, saw their mutual aid responses and mutual aid requests, and it was almost 1 for 1. It was 55 to 54. In a similar sized communities, Tingsboro, same demographics, same population. This is a community that we've used ourselves to compare ourselves against in a lot of circumstances. Another big question everyone has is why? Why are we doing this? There is no problem with the private provider that we have now. None. The reason for this, as Art explained to you, is there has to be a creative way to come up with more manning for the fire department. We've gone to big events. You've seen them on the news. These big events, and we've rolled out of the station with myself and 2 firefighters. Yes, the call men are coming in after us. We had a big thing on Pawtucket Boulevard where we needed the ladder truck immediately. The ladder truck did not come out the door to start with because other people had to come in and get it. So we have those challenges in front of us. This is a way to put 2 more firefighters on all the time and to have them available to us. As you heard me before talk about, there's 8,700 hours in a year. If we have 800 ambulance calls a year, transports, it's going to take us 800 hours to do that work. Go to your house, evaluate your condition, see whether we require ALS to assist us or not, and transport you to the hospital. 8,700 minus 800, we're looking at 90% of the time, these people will be ready and available to fight fire if it's necessary. You say, okay, so now you're going to go to a fire, right? Where's the ambulance coming from? As we do today, as we do other communities do. Automatic aid will be coming right into Tingsboro with an ambulance. If we go today, the private comes right to the fire with us. And if we go tomorrow, our ambulance will be there. If they need to prioritize their work as ambulance work as compared to firefighting, they will. If they need to do firefighting as a priority and the backup ambulance is coming into town to the call, that will be done also. I'm sure there's a bunch of other questions people might have. One big thing that I'd like Wes to convey to you about is the training that the present firefighters do and what their service is.
Thank you. Further explanation?
Wes Russell, 187 Kendall Road. I'm deputy chief from the fire department, but I'm a call firefighter. My full-time job is a paramedic. I've been a paramedic and had a wide EMS career for the last 30 years. As the chief mentioned, I also serve on state, regional EMS and emergency planning committees. So I know a lot about EMS. The current firefighters, we have all but 2 actually of our 27 current firefighters are state certified EMTs, currently responding to EMS calls, providing the same care at the scene now that they would if they responded in an ambulance, but they're doing it in a fire truck. In addition to our fire training, which we spend a lot of time on, we also do EMS training concurrently now. So it's not that there would be necessarily additional training for the EMTs. Certainly, it would be a higher volume of our calls or a higher focus on our calls. But part of the training that we are always concerned about is training for those low volume events that we don't get to do a lot. So that's why we spend a lot of time on fire training. As far as the backup situation, we are hoping to, very quickly have 2 physical ambulances in town. Whenever we need more than the on-duty firefighters, we have the call fire department that responds, and so the call firefighters will be able to possibly respond with that second ambulance. All ambulance services in the state of Massachusetts are required to sign backup agreements with neighboring ambulance services. So any municipal or private ambulance service in a community around us would have to have a backup agreement with us. We would seek those backup agreements for that mutual aid response as well. One of the comments was, what if we need 4 or 5 ambulances? And we're not going to obviously be a private company with 100 ambulances and all those resources. The state mass casualty plans come into place then. There are many communities throughout the Commonwealth, especially if you move west of here and into central Mass and western Mass, that manage the ambulance in a similar fashion. And those plans are in place for that. So in a mass casualty or multiple casualty situation, we would be able to contact our regional central emergency medical dispatch, and they have all the resources at their fingertips. We tell them how many ambulances we need. They dispatch them. The first 2 or 3 ambulances may come from our own mutual aid network, and they would get the rest for us. And it's obviously I can get into, it becomes very complex at that point. I think the bottom line is that the planners on the committee and the senior officers in the fire department have also thought and been concerned about all these things and have been working through those plans to come up with this proposal.
Thank you. Further discussion? Oh, Carrie, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's been a number of questions about the finances in line with running an ambulance, and questions about the numbers that we used for a number of transports. And we verified the numbers this morning with Trinity, and our numbers for fiscal 15 were a little bit short, and then we're increasing by 3% each year, so that our plan projections for fiscal 17 are only 14 less than what Trinity has given us for the study that you see in the study report. So based on that, our analysis of the revenue in total did not include any mileage for transports to Lowell General Hospital or any other hospital. If you add that into our projected revenues, you're adding about another $60,000 to the revenue projections. We tried to be extremely conservative because this is our first year. We're not sure when we'll actually have the first ambulance come out of the box and when we'll receive the collections. There'll probably be a delay of about 2 months. So we're trying to be conservative with our revenue projections and also our expenses. We've included fully funded personnel. The health insurance is paid for by the town, but it will be reimbursed by the ambulance fund, and also costs for retirement will be reimbursed to the town. So all the costs that show up in employee benefits will be borne by the ambulance enterprise fund. So I think that some of the concerns that we've heard about the finances really aren't showing a complete picture. We've looked at the entire picture and the expenses and revenues that go with this project. And I think that we will be making money, maybe not fully in fiscal 17, but in 18 we will be making money for the town of Tingsboro, and it will be held in the ambulance enterprise fund, which could be used in future years to buy a new building or help pay for a building for public safety. So there is a lot of things that we can do to save our money and buy other ambulances also in the future.
Further discussion, Article 13.
Hi, Paul Lennon, 102 Clover Hill Circle. Aside from the operations, what about liability? Are we opening ourselves up to something should an incident go very poorly? Would the ambulance group be held responsible, or would the town? I mean, with an existing ambulance company doing this, whatever goes wrong, they're on the hook, but now it's going to be who?
It's really a question, I guess, of insurance. Article 13.
Well, obviously, in addition to the insurance, but I would say to you that the fire department, as it sits today, goes to all the medical calls. Most of the time they're there first. They're doing all this medical work as we speak.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 13.
Mr. Moderator, John Pelletier, 186 Frost Road, also the chair of the Tingsboro Firefighters Association, also a firefighter on the department. And as the chief was stating earlier about a second ambulance, the Firefighter Association has already pledged to purchase. We've already looked into it, found an ambulance, and as you know, in essence, as soon as this passes here tonight, we will be going out to purchase that backup ambulance, so that, you know, on top of the one that will be appropriated and bought with the existing funds from this revenue stream, we'll have a backup immediately in place for one, so we don't, you know, there's no question about are we covered or not. We will be. And all the members of the association are in favor of this, want this to go. This is a good thing for the town. This is something that we need. So we ask for everybody's support on this. Thank you. Yeah. Also, additionally, just there was also mention about a second ambulance or an ambulance being at special events such as the football games and other special activities and stuff like that. We will dedicate that second backup ambulance to those events. So there's no problem about will there be any type of safety issues of not having an ambulance on scene for our children in town. I mean, we'll have that ambulance right there with fully trained EMTs. I mean, as they say, a doctor that goes to medical school at School A and School B, they're both doctors when they come out. We are all fully trained EMTs as the other company is. So, I mean, don't let that, try and, sway you from one side or the other. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion, Article 13.
Robert Kiers. I am not opposed to the ambulance, but I am very concerned that they did not get specific. They gave us a lot of information, and I appreciate that. But an emergency, heart attack, seconds count. If there's a perfect storm, something's going on, somebody is going to die. We can't, myself, I would like to see this more study, I guess, or freeze this money until we can come back next year with more money or something, so we can have a full-time ambulance, 24/7. There is no way that they can guarantee that there's going to be 24-hour a day, 7 days a week service of more than one ambulance. And based on the statistics that they've given for the transports, that's got to average out to some days, especially on weekends, that there's going to be more than 2 or 3 ambulance calls per day. Where are these ambulances going to come from? I'm not saying the people aren't dedicated. If you want to do hybrid training, cross-train the police department. They're out there 24/7. Like the gentleman said, a lot of the firefighters work outside the department as call firemen. This is very dangerous, and if we can't...
Yes, I need to bring it into an
Right,
actual
if
question.
if we just can't be guaranteed of multiple ambulances covering this town 24/7, then we've got to put this on hold until we get more money so we can have the ambulances that we need. And what about when the ambulance goes down for maintenance? They're diesels, right? They're gonna need maintenance.
So we're gonna-
Wintertime,
Okay, so
right?
that's the question that you have.
There's a lot of problems.
Let's just bring it to that one question, and let that be answered.
if
When
that's
you
the-
have another question, so we
Well,
can answer one for you.
I'll sit down. I just want to say that if that's the situation, that I just would ask that this be voted no until such time as we can get more money.
Absolutely. Anyone answer the question of
I'll
ambulance
answer
count?
the money question. There is no money. All the money to support the ambulance enterprise fund is coming from the actual transports and the insurance payments to the town for the people who are transported in the ambulance. There is no money coming from the town at all.
That, I think the real question is ambulance count and issue if we need multiple. Thank you, Art.
Right, yeah, Art Michaud, 206 Westwood Road. So there is no change in what we're doing today. The 2 firefighters and an officer respond to every medical call. So they're there. They're going to be there. They're usually there first. Then it's handed off. So after the first emergency and the patient's stabilized, that patient's then transported. Today, we don't do the transport. Now, we can do the transport and collect insurance money, right? Not coming out of our pockets.
Thank you.
There is, but today, there is one ambulance that basically available to the town today. If you need a second ambulance, that ambulance will have to get called in just like it does today. So we're gonna operate the same way. We'll have a second backup. We can call our call firefighters to man it, or we use our standard operating procedures for mutual aid as well as to go to the private agencies to respond. There is no difference. There will be no gap. Based on if there's approval tonight, we will then work on a transition plan. There's no sense working on a transmission plan unless you, the citizens, feel that this is what we should do. We will then implement and put together contracts and a transition plan. We still have a contract until the end of June. So we will then have a transition plan if and so the vote goes that way.
Thank you. Again, I apologize, folks. Come right up and speak.
Thank you very much. That's great. Hi, my name is Paulette Grout, 1 Hamlet Avenue, and I have a serious disability, so I have a great concern. I want to preface my comments with the fact that I have the greatest respect for the fire department. More respect for the fire department than on any department I've ever dealt with in Tingsboro, because they have been the hardest working throughout an incredible duration of times where, budgets were concerns, and I'm not here to dissertate too much, but I want to thank them for everything they've ever done, and this is not about them in terms of their service. It's about the fact that I'd like to ask, is Trinity doing a good job? Is it a broken wheel, or is it an excellent service?
Simply, I can answer that. There is no issues.
Right into the microphone.
There's no issues with the town of Tingsboro with Trinity. None. Again, the big element to this is to increase the staffing of the fire department throughout a tax-based revenue. That's the element.
That's the element I'm concerned with. The element is that we're not here because of service. We're here because we don't have enough fire people, and we need to fund them in order to have a better fire department. Trinity is focused on ambulance service only. It's not convoluted. It's not trying to do fire department work and ambulance service work. They do one thing. They focus on one thing. I'd like to see the fire department focusing on fire department issues and not try to fix a wheel that isn't broken. I'm really concerned as a person who has a life-threatening illness that at any time I'm going to need ambulance service, and is the fire department at a fire? I am confused and I am concerned. I want to know that we're going to do something better, something more creative, to help the fire department get 2 additional fire people without sacrificing an excellent service that we already have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gus, go right ahead. You're yielding the floor. It's a rare opportunity.
West Russell Kendall Road. I think some of the confusion is, while we are a call fire department, we're actually a combination fire department. And we have, currently, there are 2 guys in the station on duty 24/7, 2 firefighter EMTs in the station 24/7. And we respond to all medical emergencies, and we respond to multiple emergencies now. So when those 2 guys go out the door on a medical emergency, and a second medical emergency comes in, the call guys get automatically toned out on our pagers, and we respond to the second medical emergency, or the fire call, or the accident, or whatever that second emergency is. The concept of fire departments doing EMS work is not a new one, and in fact, it's a very old one, and so we respond to all emergencies. What we're trying to do is obviously we're going to be trying to increase the on-duty staffing so that we have, when 2 guys go out on that first call, there are already guys in the station for that second call. And when that third call comes in, then we're going to the call fire department for the multiple calls. And that's really what we're trying to do. And we're trying to be fiscally responsible, improve the fire department service in all sorts of emergency response, not just EMS or fire suppression, whether it's hazmat or other technical rescue issues. We want to have those personnel there for you. But we're trying to do it in a way with creative financing, so we're not coming to you and saying we need to increase the tax rate in the town budget so that we can do it. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. So we're responding to multiple emergencies now with 2 people 24/7 in the call department. We're looking to improve that to having 3 or 4 people 24/7, depending on the in time of day and what the call volume is like, and still have that call department available to you as a backup.
Thank you. Gus, go right ahead.
Augustus Scammers, commenting on, have you ever won something and won it again? This is a win-win situation, no matter what you look at it. We're getting service, they're providing service to us. Basically, it's not going to increase our taxes. And through the years that I've lived in Tingsboro, I have never seen a department which provided the city or the town with so much revenue from in equipment that they provided us that we didn't have to pay for. And now I don't know how, we're winning both ways. No matter which way we look at it, we're going to win. We're going to have better service. Let me tell you, when you hire an outside ambulance service, they don't know the shortest way to where you're going. That's from experience. All right? And this is the best thing I've heard in a long time in this town. I hope you win. I hope you all vote for it.
Thank you, Gus. Further discussion? Article 13. Chief?
Thank you, Gus. Rich Child, Police Chief. I just wanted to add, when the police department receives any call, motor vehicle accident, medical call, whatever it is, emergency nature, what happens in order of the event, the dispatcher first calls the area cruiser, 1 cruiser or 2, dispatches them. Police are first responders. We're in the low level of the medical field. The second, the fire department's toned out. I can tell you just about every single one of these calls, the fire department is the second one on the scene, or sometimes beat us, which doesn't make me happy. But the bottom line is they're already there. They're already giving medical treatment. They take over for our officers who may be giving first aid, who may be, whatever they're doing, CPR, et cetera. They take over because they have a higher level of knowledge and expertise. The very last to show up, and no fault of their own, but it's the ambulance service. And no difference than when we have an overwhelming amount of calls, which I think is a legitimate point to make up, we use mutual aid. The police department uses it as well. The fire department relies on it as well. It wouldn't matter regardless of whether we have a private ambulance service or a town ambulance service. Mutual aid is a necessity it's a necessity for Lowell. It's certainly a necessity for smaller towns, such as Tingsboro. That's not going to change. The only difference here, the fire department is already giving medical aid. What they're going to be doing is transporting those people to the hospital and the town is going to be receiving income back in for that transport, which is going to improve public safety for the town of Tingsboro and increase the size of the fire department, which is a win-win, as Gus, I think, correctly pointed out.
Thank you. Any last discussion, Article 13?
Hello, my name's Catherine Gabriel, and I'm the town accountant right now. And I was also appointed to this committee 18 months ago and have been serving on it and really analyzing in detail the numbers. I just felt that this is something to share. This is a list taken from the Mass State website, and it's updated as of November of 2015, showing that there's 317 ambulances services in the Massachusetts, and 226 of those run by municipalities. That's 71%.
Thank you. Further discussion, sir? Name and address?
Jack Miranda, Tower Road. I'm just questioning on the, since we don't have a problem with Trinity, why are we reinventing the wheel? If you're gonna have to hire or put 2 more guys in the station, at the fire station, and handle the ambulance. So when they go on a call, there's gonna be another, a fire comes in or something. Somebody's gonna have to respond to that. So you're gonna have on-call guys that, from my understanding, that's gonna come in and back up the fire department, the fire truck. So my question to this whole thing is that with all the study they did, has any of the other cities and towns said that they've made big profits on bringing this into the city and towns and stuff? As far as the money coming in and the amount that's going to be supposedly put out through the insurance companies, which may pay, may not pay.
Sure.
The 40B housing that we're coming in with the low income, with the police department already running crazy on those systems. Who's paying for this? I mean, yeah, it's wonderful to say the private insurance is, but that's my question.
Okay.
What towns have said that this has been a real profitable thing? I understand Chelmsford looked at it and they said, no, there's no way it was, but that's what I'm looking for. How profitable really is, and what towns have actually said in their study saying, this is a great thing, let's go for it.
All right. Excellent question. I think we just got part of that answer that you said 211 of 351 towns. Did I get that number close? 226 of 351 towns have their own ambulance.
Hi, Dave Carney, 6 Apollo Drive. I had the pleasure of serving on this committee as a committee at large member for 18 months. There are many communities, the communities that what she just mentioned, the 75%, 71%. When the ambulance gets in the community, it stays in the community. It doesn't leave. I don't know what happened in Chelmsford. I have my opinion, but I wouldn't want to speak on it here. With getting these 2 extra guys and providing the transport, you're going to make a good fire department better. Those 2 EMTs that are on the ambulance that are firefighters are duly trained, firefighter 1, firefighter who's certified. So in an incident, if the incident commander needs something, he can say to those guys, go get this. They'll know where it is. They'll know how to use it if they're certified and trained to use it. It's a safety issue. Currently now, when you have these 2 or 3 guys show up to a house, these guys are in violation of a standard. And that standard is if you send 2 guys into a burning building, you have to have 2 guys outside. We currently don't have that. That's not fair to those 2 guys or their families. I urge you guys to support this. This is a good thing. We won't regret it. It'll make this town safer and better. Thank you.
Thank you. Any last discussion, Article 13?
My name is Kathleen Spaeth, and I live at 2 Minuteman Drive. When we brought this forward at our fall special town meeting to establish an enterprise fund, I have to say that the chief went out of his way to answer a lot of my questions. He always has, and I've been quite impressed with him and quite impressed with the committee's numbers and the study that they did. The only question I wonder, though, and I still need a little help with, and I don't know how quickly we can answer this. I know we have the 2 firefighters going out right now. They help, and then they are not able to transport that person, so they're not really making money on the transportation side currently, right?
That is correct.
Are we going to, I think I've seen at the selectmen's meeting, are we going to get a billing service company that's going to provide the billing services for us?
Excellent question.
And then what is that collection rate? I'd like to know. And also, I'm sorry, I'm adding the third question here. There's a difference between, there's 2 different types of ambulance services that you can get. And I kind of need that explained a little further if we can. I believe the town of Tingsboro would still get money based on the type of ambulance service, but there's certain ambulance services, like for instance, cardiac care. If cardiac care is needed, you usually are sent, if I'm correct, to the closest cardiac care unit, which would be Lowell General Hospital, by a different ambulance service than ours. So there's been some question and concern as to whether we would even get compensated for providing the cardiac care on the spot. Cardiac care is necessary. It's going to be provided by the firefighters. I'm not saying it in the EMTs. I'm not saying it isn't. I just need to understand how the billing would be. I'm sorry, Chief, for standing up. Sorry, so that I can understand that better.
So we have the ambulance question and then a billing question.
All right. So for the ambulance question, specific to the difference between BLS and ALS, I'll refer to Wes, who's a paramedic and works on the regional ALS unit that comes into Tingsboro.
So the ambulance service that the town is going to provide is a basic life support service, which is the same as has been noted, service that Trinity currently provides. The town has benefited since 1983 of a hospital-based regional advanced life support service, and that won't change. We'll have a memorandum of agreement. We'll continue to have the same high quality of care by the paramedics provided by Lowell General Hospital for those cardiac care cases or the other intensive care cases. And this is an important point because by using that, taking advantage of that availability of that service, we only need to provide a basic life support service in our town. So that means we have a lower operating cost, lower level of training required by our own staff, and lower equipment needs and lower liability. They're taking on a lot of that. They come to the scene, and for those really critical cases, they're taking all the responsibility and basically directing care, and we're providing the transport. For those cases, which is, I think we figured about 25% of our overall volume is ALS, 25 to 30%. For those cases, we would have a memorandum of agreement for bundle billing in certain situations so that the ALS service would get a cut of the bill and we would get a cut of the bill.
And then there was a billing question as well.
Service, or?
The committee interviewed a number of companies, billing companies, as we went through the process. One of them was Comstar, who services 110 communities in the state of Massachusetts. We went out to bid already for this, pending the outcome of this. Nothing is signed as a contract, but Comstar was the successful bidder on the project. And our projections right now include 20% uncollectible in our revenue projections and expense projections. So we will still make a profit. I think that that's an industry standard right now, the 20%. Hopefully we'll have a better collection rate. You can always work with your provider to do that, but right now we assume 20% in our projections.
Thank you. Any last discussion? Article 13.
Move the question. Moderator.
Please, go right ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank Art.
And
I'd
you'll
like
be
to
brief.
apologize to the members of the fire department, the chief and the deputy chief, for interceding before they got to speak. It's apparent to me, and I hope it's apparent to the rest of us here tonight, that you have seen our town government, those people who are engaged in public safety, all pulling together to tell you this is what they want to do to better serve the town. They have my full support. They have my confidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Last discussion? Keep on coming. Thank you.
I have a question. In regards to transport, is Lowell General Hospital the only hospital that the ambulance service is going to respond to? And do they go directly to Boston if needed?
I can't say
Thank you.
For emergency response, the state regulations require transport to the closest appropriate hospital, with a few exceptions, and I don't want to belabor the whole audience with that. But in certain medical conditions, if the difference in transport time from the closest hospital to a more distant hospital may be warranted. So we would follow the state protocols and guidelines, just like Trinity is bound to state protocols and guidelines in following what hospital you're transported to. It is unlikely that there would be, in an emergency response, a direct transport to Boston because that's significantly time difference in transport, and I don't think Trinity's doing that. It's certainly outside of the bounds of the state regulations. But there are other hospitals. So the Nashua hospitals, both Nashua hospitals and both Lowell campuses are fairly equidistant. In certain trauma circumstances or maybe cardiac circumstances, Leahy Clinic would be an appropriate point of entry depending on the location and the patient's condition. And there are certain parts of town where Neshoba Community Hospital is the closest hospital. So we would follow all the state protocols and regulations for point of entry and transport.
So Brigham's, if that's where you have all of your records, you have all of your, everything that's needed for them to respond to you, that's out of the question?
So the question is, would you be transported directly to Brigham and Women's? Right. If there is an emergency, if you call 911 for an emergency, the current state regulations would prohibit us transporting you directly to Brigham and Women's. You would be required to be transported to a closest hospital first, and then make sure, for a physician, can make sure you're stable enough for transfer. In a non-emergency situation, that's a different situation. So in a non-emergency, if you require the ambulance transport because you were bedridden and need to go on a stretcher or something like that, then it would be okay to transport you. I would suggest, we would have to make a decision whether to use 911 resources for that or whether to refer it to a private ambulance company or something like that.
So you also support the national hospitals as well?
They would fit within the transport guidelines. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the clarification. Any last discussion? Article 13. Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 13 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry unanimous. Article 14, authorization of the Board of Selectmen regarding contracts in excess of 3 years. See if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into lease purchase agreements up to 5 years to purchase equipment for town departments. Said contract shall be subject to annual appropriations or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 14. Selectmen.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 14 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, this article would authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into lease purchase agreements for items including office equipment, vehicles, or other equipment. Massachusetts general law requires town meeting approval to enter into contract in excess of 3 years.
Thank you. Any discussion on Article 14? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 14 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 15, authorization of the school committee regarding a transportation contracts in excess of 3 years. To see if the town will vote to authorize the school committee to enter into an agreement up to 5 years to provide transportation services for the school department. Said contract shall be subject to annual appropriations or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on 15?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 15 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second on Article 15. Explanation, please.
This article...
No. Corey, you're on a roll. Certainly.
School department, which goes out to bid for its transportation. We currently use D-Bus. We'll be going out to bid next fall. This will allow us to have a better bargaining position should we be able to enter in an agreement for 5 years and stabilize our transportation costs.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion, Article 15? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 15 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 16, authorization for the Board of Selectmen to lease property for a billboard. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into any and all necessary agreements to let and or lease the property for the construction, installation, operation, and maintenance of a billboard on such terms and conditions as the Board of Selectmen deem appropriate. Property identified as 120 Westford Road, shown as Assessors Map 22, Parcel 10, containing approximately 14.61 acres of land, Zone I-1, recorded in Middlesex North Registry of Deeds, 2652, page 722, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 16.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 16 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second on 16. Explanation, please.
Massachusetts general law requires town meeting approval to enter into a contract in excess of 3 years. A typical land lease for a billboard is 20 to 25 years.
Okay, further explanation?
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. Matt Hanson, and Town Administrator.
Thank you.
Through you to the audience, we have a slightly longer explanation I'd like to provide in anticipation of a few questions. This evening, this will be the same information that was given to the Board of Selectmen before voting. You see here we have a map of the location in case you're not 100% sure where 120 Westford Road is located. The blue line is the proposed location of the billboard. You'll see 120 Westford Road, the current recreation building, is noted. To the northeast is the West Tech Drive Industrial Park. You'll note Route 3 on the map. And to the south of the property is 385 Dunstable Road, which is for public services. And just to clarify what this article is asking, just like the former two articles, Town meeting is being asked to authorize the town, particularly the Board of Selectmen, to enter into a lease agreement for more than 3 years. A typical billboard lease, as was mentioned, is 20 to 25 years. The other questions you may have regarding placement and specifications, those are going to be approved at multiple points down the road if this is approved tonight. For example, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Conservation Commission, as well as the Massachusetts Office of Outdoor Advertising will all have to be involved in the approval process. Some of those approvals will include the exact height of the billboard, the exact location on the parcel. We identified an approximate area. And the Board of Selectmen will be involved in things such as the lease term, the lease payments, the length of the lease, bonding and insurance requirements, allowable content. I know that was a question. There was a question on the Yahoo group some of you may have seen right before here about content and, was that you? No? Okay, I heard a laugh here.
That was an issue on a previous billboard, as I recall, on Board of Appeals.
I think one of the unique things about having town-owned land for a lease of a billboard is the Board of Selectmen can actually control some of these things, where if it was a private billboard, you may not be able to, but the town does have the right through the request for proposal process and signing into agreement to control things like content. And we'll get into the fact right now that there's a billboard right down the road. You can pretty much expect something pretty similar if this is approved this evening. Just a few more quick slides. I do want to be brief. The actual next steps in this process, we just wanted to outline those so everyone would be aware. The Board of Selectmen would release a request for proposals for advertising companies to lease a portion of the property. They would select an advantageous proposal taking into consideration all of the different things that were just discussed. The length of the lease, the term, payments, height and location, the company's experience and reputation. Did they meet all the proposal requirements? The chosen applicant would then have to apply to the Zoning Board of Appeals for likely 3 or 4 variances, depending on our zoning and their exact application. They'll also have to go to the Conservation Commission, given this land's proximity to some wetlands. The Zoning Board of Appeals and Conservation Commission, they're going to hold public hearings where all legal abutters are going to be notified. If people have concerns about something like a height or lighting on the billboard or backlighting, things like that, those things will all be aired and discussed during the zoning board process, and the zoning board will be able to make certain determinations depending on the resident input and the laws that are available to them. If local approval is granted, the applicant will then have to apply to the Massachusetts Office of Outdoor Advertising for final approval. Again, these are things that can't happen unless they know that the town approval is in place, which would essentially include this approval here this evening. And the applicant has to meet very strict standards for a billboard, according to MassDOT regulations, Section 700 CMR3, control and restrictions of billboard signs and other advertising devices. That's why you don't see billboards in every location along a major highway. The state has very, very, very strict standards. And in fact, I'll get into another slide soon that explains how many different locations we've looked at in town and that this is really the only suitable one. But I just put a small timeline here together. It will take at least 1 to 2 months to go through the RFP process, another 2 months at least to go through the Zoning Board and Conservation Commission public hearings. It takes approximately 3 months for the applicant to receive approval from the Massachusetts Office of Outdoor Advertising, and then at least another 1 to 2 months for the applicant to actually pull permits and begin the installation. So it's likely that the soonest you would actually see a billboard up would be late fall of 2016. If there are any delays in that process anywhere, we would likely be in the spring of 2017. This is the happy slide, if you will. Estimated revenue, $80,000 per year plus a 2% escalation. Over the course of 25 years with the escalation, that's potential lease revenue of $2,562,000. From speaking to multiple advertising companies, that's considered a conservative estimate if everything goes as planned. Multiple communities recently have also offered through the request for proposal processes an option if advertising companies wanted to give an additional upfront lump sum to the town out of their first year lease revenue, somewhere in the few $100,000 range. That could be on top of the annual lease payments to the town. This isn't unprecedented in Tingsboro. There is currently one billboard located on Route 3 between exits 33 and 34. This is owned by Makepeace Road, LLC. This was approved by the Zoning Board and Conservation Commission in 2008. This is a privately owned billboard. However, Tingsboro does receive, as part of the order of conditions, $20,000 per year currently. That's running through the first 10 years. Then the town will receive 2% of revenues for the remaining life of that billboard. Tingsboro began exploring potential locations as early as 2012, particularly the Recreation Department. We're looking to find alternative revenue streams for field maintenance activities. The town has conducted a review of multiple town-owned parcels along heavily traveled roadways. Most of them are either too small, they're not close enough to other businesses, they're not located in an industrial zone, many of the state requirements. So 120 West Road is actually the only town-owned parcel that meets those strict standards. So we're not going to be coming to you next town meeting asking for another location, and the next town meeting after that. This is the only location we're currently looking at. The town administrator and the town's legal staff met with representatives from the State Office of Outdoor Advertising as early as 2013 to discuss this potential location at 120 Westwood Road. We just mentioned that so you know this isn't an idea that we just came up with yesterday. There's actually been conversations with the state going back about 2 or 3 years now. And we're just finally at the point where we feel confident that we are likely to receive state approval at this time if we receive town meeting approval. And again, I think I already mentioned that there's no other additional town-owned parcels. This is the final slide, I promise. Makepeace Road, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner. It's approximately 2,000 square feet away from 120 Westford Road. It's on the same stretch of highway. This does far exceed the state requirement, which is it has to be a minimum of 500 feet from the next closest billboard. So it far exceeds that requirement. But if you look at the butters, which are generally the people mainly concerned with a billboard, has very much the same abutters, the West Tech Industrial Park and Republic Services. And you'll see this location is actually much farther away from a few other small businesses and residents you'll see in the bottom corner of the screen. There are really only 2 major industrial abutters to this particular location. The advertising companies are very excited about it. We've received very positive feedback from the state. And as I mentioned, we're really just here this evening asking for your approval of the extended land lease. So, any questions?
Thank you for the explanation. Further discussion, Article 16. Come on down.
Hello, my name is Joyce Spiegel on 322 Westford Road. I am a taxpayer and proud president of Tingsboro Youth Football and Cheerleading, so I'm here on behalf of both of us. For the past several years, our organization has incurred field fees, significant field fees. We pay about $3,000 a year to use the field fees, which are paid directly to the Recreation Department. We've had a drop in enrollment, which we were asked to by Allison Page to provide information on that drop in enrollment in our tackle football program. We have seen a steady decline, and yet our field fees remain the same. So we've had to pass along those fixed costs to our parents, which is essentially a tax on parents with kids who play sports in this town who use those fields. We're asking, and we wholly support this billboard. What we do want to see is allocation, a significant allocation of the revenue generated from the billboard to cover our field maintenance fees so that we can offer more opportunities to our kids who play sports in this town. We're grateful for all the work that the Recreation Department does to manage the fields, but it's a cost that is just not sustainable in the long term. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion. Article 16.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Peter Nicosia, 1 Jonathan Circle. Essentially the same concerns. I'm here speaking on behalf of Tingsboro Youth Baseball. Same concerns as espoused by youth football. We'd ask that the residents support the article and provide some additional funding to the town sports programs.
Thank you. Further discussion, Article 16.
Good evening, Alice Page, Recreation Director. I just want to clarify just one thing, that the funds are not put into Recreation Department. It's just because it's my face. It's really a field use committee, which is a separate committee. It's not recreation. I just happen to be the one doing the work for it. So this field that we're speaking of out here, Bicentennial, that people's youth organizations are being billed for, is a privately funded field. The town does not pay any taxpayer money to maintain that field. We have to generate every dime. So this is why a while back we were challenged to come up with alternative funding and this was our solution to it. It's great revenue for the town, not only for field maintenance, will alleviate a lot of the payments that the youth organizations need to pay, and hopefully allow us to develop things better for everyone in town. It's a great facility next to us, and we hopefully would be able to continue such facilities in other locations. So hopefully that will help clarify just a little.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 16? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 16 as printed, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That does carry. Article 17, authorization to accept Chapter 90 funds. See if the town will vote to accept the state grant of Chapter 90 highway funds and authorize the Board of Selectmen to expend said funds for highway purposes in accordance with the terms of said grants or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 17.
Approve Article 17 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Article 17. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, approval of this article will allow the selectmen to use state funding for local road and drainage projects.
Thank you. Any discussion, Article 17?
Mr. Moderator, Kathleen Spates, 2 Minuteman Drive. I don't see a dollar amount, so do we know what our 2017 Chapter 90 highway funds are going to be?
I don't know if that's in yet, but is there a, do we have an answer?
It's roughly $417,000.
Is that about the amount that we normally receive?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the clarification. Any last discussion, Article 17? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 17 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 18, continue and approve revolving funds. To see if the town will vote to authorize pursuant to the authority granted under Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, the following revolving funds for the purpose of receiving fees and making disbursements in connection with the duties of the following town entities, or as so specified below, and that any surplus revenue accumulated in 2016 and 2017 shall remain in the revolving accounts for each of the following town entities, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 18.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to approve Article 18 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do I have an explanation, please?
This article authorizes the revolving funds shown above for certain town departments under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Subchapter 53E and a half, for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016, and ending June 30th, 2017.
Thank you. Any discussion, Article 18?
And the funds appropriated for the ambulance service, being now that the ambulance service is going to be fully funded by itself, is that $50,000 after the initial startup? Is that $50,000 to return to the townspeople, to the tax, to the base? Or is that something that's a one-time startup cost that they're going to, that the taxpayers are going to assume?
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Mike's not on.
Is there something wrong? Okay. Funds in that revolving fund have come in from Trinity over the past few years as a portion of the dispatch fees. The funds will stay with the ambulance. They're for purposes of using, of use for the ambulance fund, and they can still be used. They're not taxpayer dollars. They haven't been raised through taxes.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Article 18, any last questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 18 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 19, establish a police detail revolving fund. To see if the town will vote to authorize to establish a traffic police detail revolving fund as authorized by Chapter 44, 53E and 1/2 of the Mass General Laws. This fund shall be funded by citations and other traffic violations charged. These funds may be expended without further appropriation for wages and expenses related to traffic and roadway safety. The Board of Selectmen may expend from this account an amount not to exceed $30,000 for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 19.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 19 as printed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A second explanation, please.
This article will establish a traffic police detail revolving fund to be funded by citations and other traffic violations charged, and will authorize the police department to expend up to $30,000 for expenses related to traffic and roadway safety.
Any discussion? Chief, will I have to be looking in my rearview mirror a little more often? Everybody's wondering, I'm just saying.
So effectively, the money that already comes into the town, it would be better used, and it's going to go into a revolving fund, half of it, 50%. It'll be specifically used for traffic enforcement. So many of you in the audience tonight have called me, or called members of our department. You've got speeders in your street, et cetera. We send a cruiser down, maybe that lasts 2 days, 3 days. They try to come down through it during the shift. What this will allow us to do is specifically from this revolving account, specifically send an officer over there for, say, 4 hours at a time. He may do 2 roads, 3 roads, 4 roads. We can buy equipment, radar units that are $3,000, $4,000 a piece, specifically through this account. The money will be better expended by our department and enforcement in the town. As you know, there's more and more traffic in this town. The numbers are way up. It will allow us to do our job better, more effectively, but it's the same group of money. But we expect a spike in revenue as this town is heavily traveled by people coming through this town, not necessarily that live in this town. So.
Thank you. Further discussion, please, Article 19.
So then to follow up on that, Kathleen Spaeth, 2 Minuteman Drive. So I was wondering, are we already issuing citations and obviously violations, and are we not collecting that money right now, Chief?
Well, where does it go, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, where's it going, since it hasn't been going into the, revolving fund?
Thank
you, sir.
So the money right now, of course, we write citations, and the money comes into the town, and it goes to the general fund. What would happen is 50% would go into this revolving fund, still coming into the town, but 50% would go into the revolving fund to be used by the police department specifically for traffic enforcement. I have to sign off on it. The only things it can be used for is traffic enforcement or traffic enforcement equipment related to public safety. That's it, nothing else.
Certainly.
I wanted to follow up and ask, what is with this microphone tonight, seriously? I wanted to ask, will it also be used to work, have our police do detail work as well, or is this just traffic and roadway safety? I just need to understand better. Thank you.
Well, the detail word kind of throws it off a little.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, and the word detail is used instead of overtime, and I realize that legitimately is a little bit confusing. It is not details per se, as like a private road job by Verizon or the sewer project, et cetera. This is a shift that we would hire an officer, they would come in, they'd be paid their rate, which is an overtime rate, but they call it a detail. It is not paid as from the revolving account that already exists for current details that police officers work. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I have one more question. Will the fund, I know you can expend up to $30,000, not to exceed, but will you give a breakdown to the selectmen as to how that money has been spent, so that we know? So, some of us could complain and say, how come that traffic enforcement hasn't been going on in our town, and our part of town? I'm only teasing you, of course, but I just would like to know. Yep.
Very good question. And yes, I'm required to report to the Board of Selectmen, specifically be broken down how we used it, where we used it, how many hours, et cetera, how many citations were written, what equipment we used to purchase, et cetera. Yep.
Thank you. Gus?
Gus Scammons, 257 Dunstable Road. We had a problem in one neighborhood where I live, and there was a crossroad, and there was stop signs on one side and the other side. However, the people coming down the right-of-way didn't obey the speed limit, and so the people mentioned to the chief to put stop signs, and within a week and a half, the stop signs were out. Thank you very much, Chief. And your assistant, where is he? The assistant administrator.
Okay, thank you. Selectman?
Chief, this Does this also allow us to collect money that's tickets issued by the state police?
Just an important aspect to this as well is currently, for example, if the state police on Route 3 issue a citation, the town of Tingsboro does not receive any money. By us adopting the statute, my understanding of it is that we will now be eligible to receive a portion of that citation. So there is an added benefit. I don't have the estimates to that, still working on that, but it's an added benefit. So this is truly a win-win for us.
Thank you. Any last discussion on Article 19? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 19 as printed, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That does carry. Article 20, transfer funds. To see if the town will vote to transfer an amount in fiscal year 16 from stabilization fund for debt and debt assessment, and said funds to be used by the treasurer to be used towards the payment of debt, principal and interest for the Early Childhood Center roof at 135 Coburn Road and the Greater Lowell Tech High School for debt assessment, or take any other action relative thereto. Do I have a motion on Article 20?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 20 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Explanation, please.
Mr. Moderator, this article would authorize payments to be made on long-term debt and debt assessments.
Any discussion, Article 20? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 20 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry unanimous. Article 21, appropriation for the Community Preservation Committee Fund. To see if the town will vote that the following sums be appropriated or reserved from estimated annual revenues of the Community Preservation Fund for fiscal year 2017, with each item to be considered a separate appropriation for the payment of administrative expenses of the Community Preservation Committee, debt service, community preservation projects, and all other necessary and proper expenses, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 21.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 21 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Explanation, please.
The Community Preservation Committee recommends how funds should be spent or set aside for future spending among the allowable categories of open space, historic preservation, and affordable housing. This article allows the town to set aside community preservation funds into the category for open space. In addition, a maximum of 5% may be spent on administrative expenses by the CPC. Town meeting may either approve or reduce the recommended expenditures, but not add to them.
Thank you for that clarification. Any discussion, Article 21? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 21 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That does carry. Article 22, authorization to sell surplus property. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey to direct abutters a parcel of land situated on Lakeview Ave, having approximately 1.7 acres of land and shown on Assessor's Map 25, Block 21, Lot 0, and also recorded in the Middlesex North Registry of Deeds, Book 6084, page 347. Such land having been determined to be no longer needed for any municipal purposes, upon such terms and conditions as determined by the Selectmen, or take any other action relative thereto. To have a motion on Article 22.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve Article 22 as printed in the annual and special town meeting guidebook.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Explanation? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 22 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 23, amend the wetland bylaws. See if the town will vote to amend the wetland bylaws, Article 33, Section 5.1, by amending the following language by deleting the underlined words and replacing them with the bold-faced words. Any person filing a permit application or a RDA with the commission at the same time shall give written notice thereof by, so we're pulling out certified mail, return receipt request. Certification of mailing is what we're adding, or hand delivered to all abutters at their mailing addresses shown on the most recent applicable tax list of the assessors. Do I have a motion on 23?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate Article 23 as printed in the Finance Committee report and meeting guidebook.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second on 23. Do I have explanation, please?
Mr. Moderator, a certificate of mail is allowed by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. This article amends the wetland bylaw to be consistent with that is allowed under state law.
Thank you for that explanation. Any discussion, Article 23? Hearing none, all those in favor of Article 23 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does carry. Article 24, citizen petition to amend the zoning bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the zoning map from B3 to I1 with respect to a certain portion of land situated in Tingsboro, Middlesex County, Massachusetts, known as 324 Middlesex Road, and being shown on a zoning extension plan dated April 5, 2016, prepared by Landplex Civil Engineering and Surveying, containing the following myths and bounds. As you can read them down here, again, the property is 324 Middlesex Road. Do I have a motion on Article 24?
Mr. Moderator,
Citizen Nicosia.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Explanation, please.
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
All right, just to orient people where this property is, it's about 15 acres, essentially across from Maximilian's Plaza, further up the road heading towards Nashua, just after Mike's Signs, the new building that just got put in. Right now, it's currently vacant land. I am the attorney representing Tingsboro DJD LLC, whose principal is Joseph DiCarlo, a businessman from Drakeit that is looking to create new business here in Tingsboro. And essentially what we're looking to do is modify the zoning status of this particular property to support new commercial development for this town. This is a known project. It's actually in the process of being permitted right now in front of the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission. And essentially what it is what Tingsboro had hoped to get on Middlesex Road as part of its economic development plan, which is front-to-back commercial development. So in the back portion of this property, this business owner is putting self-storage. He owns and operates Drakeit Self-Storage currently, which is a very nice, successful long-term business in Drakeit. He's creating Tingsboro Self-Storage on the back part of the parcel. It essentially would be 13 structures, including typical self-storage structures, but one larger one which has sort of temperature-controlled walk-in type self-storage in a more office building style development. The front part of the parcel is going to be maintained for purposes of putting likely retail or restaurant. So it's actually the ideal type of development for that road. You have passive tax income coming from the back, and you have more attractive service type business for the Tingsboro residents in the front, which is the target. The reason why we need the zoning change is self-storage is allowed in industrial, but it is not allowed in Business 3. As you may or may not know, having seen me at prior town meetings coming before you, most of the properties on Middlesex Road are split zoned, industrial and Business 3. There's about 30 properties in total in Tingsboro that have that same situation. For instance, I was here at one point rezoning the TJ Maxx parcel, which sort of had that same type of split zone issue. So all we're doing here is moving the split line between industrial and Business 3 forward a little bit, about 300 feet, so that we can support the bifurcated development of the self-storage in the back while maintaining some form of retail or restaurant in the front. Believe it or not, this property is actually specifically identified in Tingsboro's economic development plan by address, and I'll just read you a phrase with regards to 324 Middlesex Road. The zoning classification of such parcels should be modified to provide highest and best use of the property, where there are two different zoning districts. 324 Middlesex Road, 15.86 acres, and 406 Middlesex Road, 25 acres, are the two largest undeveloped commercial properties we have on that road. So it's really ground zero for where we as taxpayers want to have new economic development. Those of us who are here to, be concerned about residential tax rates and critique the budget, here's a perfect opportunity to create some new valued commercial tax revenue on an undeveloped parcel in a section of town where everybody wants commercial development. So I would ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion, Article 24. Yes, please.
Robert Kearse. I'm not opposed to this. I don't have a problem with it. The only thing I would like is to make sure that when it's in the back, it's, I don't know, it's got trees in front or something that you really don't see the storage units.
Screening?
Yeah, something. If that, is going to be part of some way to, it's not an attractive thing, that's for sure. And if we got all kinds of businesses up front, make sure you're not looking out if you're in a restaurant looking at that thing. Just screen it somehow. That's all I'm asking.
Thank you.
I appreciate Mr. Kearse's concerns, but I take issue with those. The actual construction plans are on public file with the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission right now. It's not your typical self-storage frontage building. Like I said, it's more of an office-looking building, glassed. It's actually very aesthetically pleasing. And as I mentioned before, the permitting process is actually ongoing right now. We've had 1 or 2 public meetings at both board levels. Permits have not been granted yet. This rezoning will help support that project. If you have those types of concerns about buffering and screening, visual aesthetics and things of that nature, you can certainly attend one of these next public board meetings at the Planning Board to voice your concerns about those types of issues. But trust me when I say this, the property will be very aesthetically pleasing. It's a multi-million-dollar project. It's great tax revenues for the town of Tingsboro, and you have a venue to raise those types of issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Any last discussion on Article 24? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 24 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Moore.
I'm sorry. I want that one more time. I thought I might have heard something. Again, Article 24. All those in favor of Article 24 as printed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does pass unanimous.
Mr. Moderator?
Point of order?
No, I would just, before you adjourn, I would like to thank Carrie Ann Kavanaugh in the elementary school and her staff for hosting our annual town meeting. Thank you.
I now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Moderator?
Point of order? Yes?
One more.
No, we just want to thank our new media specialist and the information technology director in putting all this together, having screens available, having information available on the webpage, and getting this out live as well this evening. So
How about microphones that work all night?
Worked.
We've all, right? What do you think of that? Whoa! I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, adjourn to the fall. Aye. Opposed? See you in the fall.
Don't say that. Great job.